Subscribe for more amazing novel audiobooks. Don't forget to like, comment, and share infinite novel audio inside the Hokkage's office. The air was thick with smoke. Like the rest of Konoha's citizens, Sarutobi hadn't slept a wink that night. Spread across his desk were nearly 100 letters of gratitude from the hidden cloud village. Each one was more infuriating than the last. But the worst of them all was the letter personally written by Yuzuru Uchiha, so venomously sarcastic that Hiruzen nearly died of rage upon reading it. Dear Third Hokage, I hope you've been in good health lately. After leaving Konoha, I finally came to understand something. The one person our Uchiha clan should be most grateful to is you. To help us make up our minds about leaving, you used your ugly face to constantly oppress and isolate us. Truly, you went to great lengths for our sake. Later, during the Nine-Tails rampage, Konoha suffered heavy losses. Yet you still managed to gather 10 billion ryo in reparations, just so we could live comfortably outside the village. I was truly moved to tears. Not long after, for my own safety, you used public opinion to drive out Hataake Sakumo, granting me the protection of such a powerful bodyguard as the White Fang himself. Then, when you saw that our land of lightning lacked funds for infrastructure, you nobly sent more of your people to die, again donating another 10 billion ryo. When we lived in Konoha, the Uchiha clan was deeply dissatisfied with you, Shimura Danzo, Mitokado Himura, and Udatane Koharu. But now that we have left the village, we have discovered your merits. Please, take care of yourselves and keep Konoha firmly in your control. If anyone dares to challenge your rule, remember this. Uchiha Yuzuru will always be your most loyal supporter. With loyalty rogue ninja Uchiha Yuzuru, the sheer level of mockery made Hiruzen's face flush as red as a monkey's. He was overcome with regret. If he had known things would turn out like this, he would have risked the entire village falling to the other great nations just to make sure the Uchiha clan was erased from existence. At that moment, the office door slammed open with a thunderous bang. Hiruzen looked up to see Danzo Shimura, Koharu Udatane, and Himura Mitokado storming in. Danzo, Hiruzen frowned. Didn't I put you under house arrest? House arrest, Danzo snapped. House arrest my ass. The whole village is spreading rumors that I'm the idiot who led 4 great villages into a failed alliance. They're demanding I kill myself to atone. He had originally planned to use the Ninja Alliance fiasco to boost his reputation and turn it into political leverage for the Hokage seat. Well, he got his fame, infamy. Now, with his name ruined, how could he ever become Hokage? Koharu quickly joined in, and me. Those letters accuse me of embezzlement and stealing Uchiha property. It's outrageous. She paused briefly, then added in a huff, completely slanderous. Himura followed up anxiously. Hiruzen, we have to confiscate every one of those letters. We can't let them spread any further. Listening to their complaints, Hiruzen sighed. It's too late. Those letters are everywhere now. The villagers read them the moment they fell. Even if we confiscate them, it won't change anything. Then what do you suggest we do? Danzo barked. Hiruzen's gaze darkened as he looked at the three. Someone has to take responsibility. Danzo, your reputation is already in ruins. You'll play the villain this time. What? Danzo's face twisted. Hiruzen, do you have to dump every mess on me? The village is in chaos and you're the Hokage. If anyone's to blame, it's you. Frankly, you should step down. Danzo, Hiruzen said in a measured tone, I'm thinking of your future. Even if I resigned now, do you really think anyone would elect you Hokage with your current reputation? Danzo hesitated, his voice lowering. Still, I'm not taking the blame for this. Then pay for it, Hiruzen said calmly. The villagers' anger all boils down to empty pockets and empty bowls. If you give them enough money, you won't have to take the fall. No way. Danzo refused immediately. He needed his funds to recruit to fuel his experiments. How could he waste them on villagers? That would cost a fortune. Then you'll take the blame, Hiruzen said simply. Danzo scowled but said no more. His root division already had a child who'd awakened would release. Success was close. His money couldn't be squandered now. Let his name rot. Once he gained enough power, the Hokage seat would be his eventually. Seeing Danzo fall silent, Hiruzen turned to Koharu and Himura. We'll each pull some money from our clans. It'll calm the villagers and restore some goodwill. As long as the mountain stands, there'll always be firewood. Money can be earned again, but if the people turn on us, we're done." Hearing his words, the two elders reluctantly nodded through tears. To appease everyone, they'd have to bleed hard this time. They cursed the Uchiha for this disaster, those cursed troublemakers, and themselves for not being ruthless enough when they had the chance. Next time, they swore, they wouldn't make the same mistake. They'd erase the Uchiha name just as completely as the Senjus. While they were discussing, an Anbu operative appeared in the office. "Hokage-sama, the villagers have gathered outside. It won't be long before they surround the Hokage building. Should we evacuate you, sir?" The four turned toward the window. Not far from the building, a massive crowd of villagers was already marching in their direction, filling the streets like a living wave. "Third Hokage." Someone shouted from below. "Two wars, and every time the third Reikage charges into battle himself, while you hide safely in the village. Why? Those wars took countless young lives, yet you four are untouched. We demand you explain to us what Will of Fire even means. And what about the Uchiha clan? Did they really leave because you oppressed them to the breaking point? And Hatake Sakumo, what truly happened to him? Why do those Cloud bastards claim you manipulated public opinion and made him the scapegoat?" The furious villagers of Konoha surrounded the Hokage building on all sides. The letters of gratitude from the hidden Cloud village had exposed the truth of the war between the Cloud and the allied ninja forces. Now the people's resentment toward Hiruzen Sarutobi and the others had grown even stronger. The third Reikage had led his village's elite personally into a battle against 10,000 enemies, fighting to the death to protect his people. Meanwhile, their own third Hokage had stayed comfortably within the village, never once stepping onto the battlefield. The 4,000 Konoha shinobi sent to fight had been almost completely wiped out. Even Orochimaru had lost an arm. Yet the Supreme Commander, Danzo Shimura, had returned home without a scratch. They constantly chanted slogans like, "Where the leaves dance, the fire burns bright. The firelight will continue to illuminate the village and allow new leaves to bud." But the reality was that the new generation was constantly withering, while the old generation of ninja lived perfectly fine. Who was really protecting whom? Faced with the angry crowd, Hiruzen Sarutobi was forced to step onto the rooftop of the Hokage building. After so many years in power, he understood all too well the force of public opinion. If he couldn't calm their fury today, things would spiral out of control, and his position as Hokage would be in danger. "Everyone, please calm down first. You can tell me any of your demands." "As the Hokage, I will not shirk my responsibilities." The villagers quieted for a brief moment at the sound of his voice. Immediately after, someone shouted loudly, "Third Hokage, did Hatake Sakumo defect from the village because he was unhappy that you made him a scapegoat? And what about the Uchiha clan? You and those 3 advisors have been seizing their assets, haven't you? Why didn't you go to the battlefield yourself? Aren't you supposed to be the strongest Hokage?" As the questions flew, Hiruzen raised both hands to calm the crowd. When silence finally returned, he spoke solemnly. "I was deeply saddened by what happened with Sakumo. However, the Uchiha clan's betrayal had long shown signs. As head of the Anbu, Sakumo failed to report any of it to me, which left the village completely unprepared. In the recent war with the hidden Cloud, Sakumo mercilessly killed his own comrades. It's clear now that he had already conspired with the Uchiha. The reason he didn't flee the village with them was likely to stay behind and act as their informant. This was my fault as Hokage. Had I realized Sakumo's ambitions sooner, I would never have let him go unpunished." Hiruzen stood tall, publicly condemning Sakumo and pinning on him the crime of treason. Then he continued, "As for the Uchiha clan, they were always rebellious and arrogant, doing whatever they pleased while enjoying privileges that kept them from dangerous missions. They flaunted their power within the village. I'm sure everyone here has seen it yourselves. And as for this rumor that we seized their assets, nonsense. It's nothing but a ploy from the hidden Cloud to sow division among us." He let out a heavy sigh. "As for our defeat in war, believe me, my heart aches more than anyone's. The ones who died were all children I watched grow up. To give everyone closure," he lifted a hand. 2 Anbu agents stepped forward, dragging a restrained Danzo Shimura into view. This man is my longtime comrade and a village advisor. Today, he will die to atone for our losses." Danzo looked up, completely stunned. "Are you kidding me, old man? You didn't say I had to actually die when you dumped the blame on me before he could protest." One of the Anbu raised his blade, and with a single swing, Danzo's head was severed cleanly. Hiruzen turned back to the crowd, his tone grave yet composed. Advisors Koharu Uchiha and Himura Mitokado have also agreed to offer funds and food from their clans to compensate everyone's losses. The village will do everything it can to help you through these hard times. I swear to you, I will not let anyone in Konoha live worse than they did before the Uchiha's defection. His voice was firm and confident. After all, with the fire daimyo now dead, the entire land of fire was in his hands. With the nation's resources behind him, restoring Konoha to comfortable living standards would be no difficult feat. As for the rest of the country, well, they would just have to endure for now. Hearing Hiruzen's promises, the anger faded from the villagers' faces, replaced by visible relief. They no longer demanded the Uchiha's return, nor did they call for Hiruzen to step down. Money and food, those were enough to quiet any rebellion. When the crowd finally dispersed, Hiruzen exhaled softly, crisis averted. He might have had to sacrifice a few benefits, but preserving his reputation and authority was well worth the cost. Moments later, Danzo emerged from the shadows, glaring at Hiruzen resentfully. "Hiruzen, you just had me executed in public. How am I supposed to run for Hokage after this?" Hiruzen waved him off calmly. "We'll give you a new identity later. No one will know." Then his expression hardened, a flicker of cold, killing intent in his eyes. "Yuzuru Uchiha, someday you'll lose your sight. I'll be waiting." Far away, Yuzuru Uchiha stood atop Tabarama Senju's face on the Hokage rock, stretching lazily with a smirk. Everything was proceeding just as he expected, but patience was key. The real show was only beginning. He would make those ungrateful Konoha villagers repent in despair. And he would see Hiruzen, Danzo, and the rest of their ilk destroyed, abandoned by allies, stripped of honor, crushed by their own corruption. He would reclaim everything that rightfully belonged to the Uchiha. The Sarutobi, Shimura, Mitokado, and Uchiha clans would all meet the same fate the Uchiha once suffered in the original timeline, massacred to the last. That day was not far away. With a cold snort, Yuzuru activated Kamui and vanished. Hidden Cloud Village. As soon as Yuzuru returned, A led him straight to the Reikage's office. Inside were the third Reikage, Hatake Sakumo, Fugaku Uchiha, Mabuma, and Tadai. When Yuzuru entered, their eyes lit up with curiosity. "So, Yuzuru," the Reikage asked, "how did those letters work out? What kind of faces did those Konoha fools make after reading them?" Seeing their eager expressions, Yuzuru chuckled and told them everything, how the villagers had raged and despaired in humiliation. When he finished, everyone in the room burst out laughing. "Ha ha ha, brilliant. That's exactly how you deal with vermin like them. Watching them suffer and regret, it's better than killing them outright. I wonder if Hiruzen will finally step onto the battlefield next time. I've always wanted to test this so-called strongest Hokage myself." As their laughter echoed, Yuzuru waved dismissively. "All right, Reikage, I doubt you called me here just to gossip." The third Reikage nodded, grinning. "You're right, Yuzuru. I actually have good news for you. Your request has been granted. The Hidden Sand Village has agreed to send us a bloodline limit ninja." After the third Reikage finished speaking, he couldn't help but sigh with emotion. He recalled that in the past, their village had resorted to all sorts of deceit and trickery just to acquire a single bloodline limit ninja. For this, they had sacrificed the lives of many elite ninja. Yet, after all that effort, they had gained nothing. Now, after presenting their request to the Sand Village, the other party immediately agreed. This was the benefit of strength. Without the powerful might of Uchiha Yuzuru, things could never have proceeded so smoothly. First, they acquired the Uchiha clan, then the Chinook clan. And now, they had obtained another bloodline limit ninja from the Sand Village. The third Reikage had a premonition that in the future, their Cloud Village would never lack bloodline limits again. "Third Reikage, where is that ninja now? I'd like to go see them." A smile touched Yuzuru's face. An image of a ninja with a smooth, beautiful back involuntarily surfaced in his mind. It must be Pakura, right? After all, the Sand Village couldn't possibly send over Rasa. I arranged for that ninja to stay with your Uchiha clan. She should be with Kushina Uzumaki now. Okay, I understand. Yuzuru turned and left the Reikage's office. Arriving at the Uchiha clan compound, Yuzuru returned to his courtyard. In the courtyard, Kushina Uzumaki and Makoto Uchiha were washing vegetables. Seeing Yuzuru return, smiles appeared on both their faces. Yuzuru, you're finally back. Kushina immediately pounced into Yuzuru's arms, nuzzling against him with her head down. Yuzuru chuckled, rubbing Kushina's head. All right, are you a little cat? Hearing this, Kushina instantly put both hands under her chin, her large eyes looking up at Yuzuru. Meow tilde. She even stuck out her little tongue after meowing. Her adorable appearance made Yuzuru involuntarily swallow. Oh, that's the feeling of falling for her. HMPH. Seeing Yuzuru's reaction, Kushina raised her chin proudly and darted to the side. Hehe, big pervert. Yuzuru smiled wryly at the playful Kushina, but secretly complained in his heart. Intentionally trying to provoke me, huh? Just you wait. You'll get what's coming to you someday. Mikoto Uchiha then walked up. She wasn't as bold as Kushina, but she hugged Yuzuru's arm and gently leaned her head on his shoulder. Feeling the warmth on his arm, Yuzuru took a deep breath. Good grief, is this how you test your leaders? Yuzuru remained composed and spoke to Kushina. The third Reikage told me the bloodline limit ninja sent by the Sand Village is with you, right? Kushina nodded. She's staying in our courtyard, but she hasn't left the room once since she came. I'll go take a look then. Seeing that Yuzuru had something to attend to, Kushina and Makoto obediently let go. Yuzuru, go ahead. Makoto and I will cook dinner for you. The two left the courtyard with the freshly washed vegetables, and Yuzuru walked toward the room Kushina had indicated. He knocked on the door but received no response. Yuzuru simply pushed the door open and entered. Sitting inside the room was a young woman with shoulder-length, sandy yellow hair. She was gentle and beautiful, appearing quite lovely, but, this isn't Pakura, is it? Yuzuru was slightly confused. Who are you? The girl was startled by Yuzuru, quickly stood up and retreated into a corner. Yuzuru said plainly, my name is Uchiha Yuzuru. Are you the bloodline limit ninja sent by the Sand Village? Hearing Yuzuru's words, the girl became even more nervous. She had already heard that it was Uchiha Yuzuru who had killed all the ninja from their Sand Village on the battlefield. Seeing Yuzuru frown, the girl immediately said, my name is Karura. Please take care of me. Hearing the girl's answer, Yuzuru froze on the spot. Karura. Isn't this Gaara's mother? Why did those guys from the Sand Village send her here? Seeing Yuzuru silent, Karura anxiously spoke. I really do have a bloodline limit. I can control sand. See, Karura said, slowly raising her arm. The next second, a pile of sand floated out of the giant gourd in the corner of the room. Before coming here, she had been specifically warned by the third Kazekage and Granny Chiyo to cooperate fully with the Cloud Village, and absolutely not give them any excuse to attack the Sand Village. Therefore, Karura dared not show any negligence toward Uchiha Yuzuru. Looking at the familiar gourd and sand, Yuzuru confirmed Karura's identity. In the original story, Rasa did seem to mention that Gaara's ability to control sand came not from Shukaku but from Karura. Recovering his thoughts, he smiled gently at Karura. I understand your ability. Please sit down. Although somewhat unexpected, Karura's bloodline limit seemed quite useful too. As for Pakura, there would always be an opportunity later. Seeing the gentle smile on Yuzuru's face, Karura slowly sat down opposite him. Yuzuru-sama, did you come to see me suddenly because you have an assignment? Yuzuru thought for a moment and replied, Karura, you know you've been abandoned by your village, right? Hearing this, Karura bit her lip and lowered her head. As collateral, she had been traded to the Cloud Village. Although she didn't resent the village, the fact that she had been abandoned couldn't be denied. Seeing Karura's expression, Yuzuru continued. Since you have come to the Cloud Village, you will be serving the Cloud Village from now on, understand? Karura nodded. Seeing her agreement, Yuzuru spoke again. Kushina and Makoto happen to be missing a teammate. You will be going on missions with them from now on. Karura looked up in surprise, asking in confusion, "Do you really trust me?" She had been here for a few days, and Kushina Uzumaki and Makoto Uchiha had both spoken with her. So Karura already knew that these two were destined to be Yuzuru's future wives. Yet now, Yuzuru was asking her, an outsider, to be teammates with his wives. Wasn't he worried that she might have ulterior motives? Hearing Karura's question, Yuzuru gave a hearty laugh. "I trust you won't do anything foolish, after all. If anything happens to Kushina or Makoto, I will make the entire Sand Village pay the price. Believe it or not, I have the power to do such a thing." Looking at the Mangekyo Sharingan pattern that had appeared in Yuzuru's eyes at some point, Karura couldn't help but swallow. Please rest assured. I'll protect them with my life." Seeing Karura's nervousness, Yuzuru retracted his aura and returned to his gentle demeanor. He asked curiously, "I remember you have a younger brother, right? Did he come with you?" Karura's heart skipped a beat. Had Yuzuru already known about this? She didn't dare to conceal anything and could only answer truthfully. "Yashimaru is still in the Sand Village." Yuzuru nodded and then suddenly asked, "If we face the Sand Village ninja in the future, will you attack them?" Karura glanced at Yuzuru and remained silent. After a long pause, she spoke in a slightly hoarse voice. "Please rest assured, I am a ninja of the Cloud Village now, and I will absolutely not commit an act of betrayal against the Cloud Village, even if they use your brother's life to threaten you." After another moment of silence, Karura stood up and for the first time mustered the courage to meet Yuzuru's gaze. "Yuzuru-sama, are you still planning to attack the Sand Village?" "That's right." Yuzuru had no intention of hiding it and spoke frankly. "I want to unite the entire ninja world. Such things are unavoidable." Karura's eyes widened in shock. "Unite the ninja world? You're not joking, are you? That would cause a lot of deaths." Yuzuru said calmly. "The current ninja world experiences a great ninja war every few decades, and countless people die in these wars. If the ninja world can be unified, wars will cease to exist. Killing, for the sake of ending the killing." He finished, and seeing that Karura still looked uneasy and unconvinced, Yuzuru did not continue the discussion. He simply said, "When you go out on missions with Kushina and the others in the future, you can take a look at the current Land of Lightning. If the ninja world is unified, I can centrally allocate its resources. Even in barren lands like the Land of Wind and the Sand Village, people will be able to live prosperous lives." Watching Yuzuru's retreating figure, Karura fell into deep thought. Before coming here, she had thoroughly examined the information regarding Yuzuru. He led the entire Uchiha clan away from Konoha and decisively settled in the Cloud Village. He had won 2 wars, demonstrating unparalleled power. He openly killed a daimyo, and not only faced no consequences, but other countries have begun to follow suit. All these events proved that Yuzuru was a person who dared to dream, dared to act, and had the ability to realize his ambitions. If he said he wanted to unite the ninja world, it was definitely not an idle boast. If Yuzuru truly put his plan into action, then even for the future of the Sand Village, shouldn't she start making some preparations for what lies ahead? Karura's thoughts raced, and she finally had to force the chaotic ideas back down. Regardless of the circumstances, the Sand Village had abandoned her, and she would live the rest of her life as a Cloud Village ninja. She would help the Sand Village if she could. If she couldn't, she would have to focus on ensuring Yashimaru's safety as much as possible. "I need to perform diligently from now on." Yuzuru was not too concerned with Karura's inner thoughts. He believed that after living in the Cloud Village for a while, Karura would realize what the correct choice truly was. After all, she was just an abandoned chess piece. What kind of loyalty could she have for the Sand Village? After leaving the room, Yuzuru ate dinner with Makoto and Kushina. Both of them were excellent cooks, and the meal was delicious. During dinner, Yuzuru told them about Karura, and Kushina and Makoto had no objections. After spending a few days with her, they had also sensed Karura's inherent kindness. Having such a person as a teammate was a comforting thing. After dinner, Makoto went to clear the dishes, and Yuzuru intended to take the opportunity to deal with Kushina. Unfortunately, before he could make a move, Abido's voice rang out from outside the door. "Yuzuru-ni, I know you're in there. Open the door quickly." Yuzuru opened the door in annoyance, reached out, and thoroughly messed up Obito's hair a few times. "You're not at the Ninja Academy. Why are you looking for me?" Obito adjusted his goggles and said with a smile, "Yuzuru Nii, today's a day off at the academy. I came to ask you for something." Yuzuru asked curiously, "What is it? Please teach me ninjutsu." Obito's eyes were filled with fighting spirit. "Yuzuru Nii, you don't know, but ever since that Kakashi guy started going to the Ninja Academy too, everyone has been ignoring me. I want to ask you to teach me something powerful so I can defeat Kakashi in front of everyone." As Obito finished speaking, Kakashi's voice came from behind him. "Obito, you are truly despicable. Yuzuru-senpai, please teach me some ninjutsu as well." Whether it was his father's teaching or the recent stories about Yuzuru that had been circulating in the village, Kakashi was filled with admiration for Yuzuru. If Yuzuru-senpai personally taught him, his strength would surely improve significantly. Hearing this before Yuzuru could speak, Obito got annoyed. He pointed a finger at Kakashi's nose and said, "I'm Yuzuru's junior, so it's natural for me to learn ninjutsu from him. What right do you have to ask Yuzuru Nii to teach you?" Kakashi paused, feeling that Obito's argument made a lot of sense. After thinking for a while, Kakashi suddenly pulled a book from his clothes. "Yuzuru Nii, this is Jiraiya's latest release. I'm giving it to you." Yuzuru's face changed. He turned his head to glance at Kushina and Makoto in the courtyard, then quickly took the book. "Kakashi, don't give me things like this in the future. I read the spring and autumn annals." Seeing Yuzuru's righteous expression, Kakashi scratched his head. "Yuzuru-senpai, but you were the one who gave me a copy once. I only give those books, I don't read them." Yuzuru interrupted Kakashi and walked toward the training ground outside. "I happen to have time today. I'll teach you two some ultimate techniques." "Yay." Obito jumped up excitedly, and Kakashi couldn't help but feel a rush of excitement, quickly following after him. Seeing the two of them, Yuzuru felt a wave of melancholy. Under his influence, the entire ninja world had completely deviated from the storyline of the original work. Although his plan was progressing bit by bit, he had lost some of his foreknowledge, which had both advantages and disadvantages. "In the future, I must continue to strive to increase my own strength." Just as Yuzuru was thinking, Obito excitedly asked from behind, "Yuzuru Nii, what ultimate techniques are you going to teach us?" Yuzuru didn't turn his head and said plainly, "Chidori and Reincarnation." "Chidori, Reincarnation." Obito looked at Yuzuru with curiosity. "Brother Yuzuru, are those two jutsu really that strong?" Yuzuru rubbed his chin thoughtfully. They're decent. Among A-rank jutsu, both have incredible potential." A-rank jutsu." Obito's jaw dropped in disbelief before his expression turned to pure excitement. "Brother Yuzuru, I want to learn them." After all, the most powerful jutsu he'd learned so far was the C-rank fireball technique. Compared to an A-rank jutsu, that was a full 2 levels apart, and he'd heard clearly just now. Even among A-rank jutsu, these two were considered highly promising. If he could master one, he'd definitely become the most admired student at the academy. Even Kakashi, standing nearby, couldn't hide his growing anticipation. Any jutsu Yuzuru described as having great potential had to be something extraordinary. Seeing how eager they both were, Yuzuru smiled. "All right, I'll show you first." He raised his right hand, and a sky-blue sphere of chakra began to form in his palm. This technique is called the Reincarnation. It's a chakra-based, non-elemental jutsu. Its destructive power scales with the user's chakra output. The advantage is that it requires no hand seals, it's instant. As he spoke, Yuzuru pressed the glowing Reincarnation against one of the wooden training posts. The next moment, wood splintered everywhere, leaving behind a deep spiral-shaped indentation. "That's it, this is an A-rank jutsu." Obito muttered in disappointment. It didn't even look as flashy as the fireball technique. Yuzuru's mouth twitched slightly. As expected of Obito, brains clearly weren't his strong suit. While Obito looked unimpressed, Kakashi's eyes were gleaming. A jutsu with no seals that could be cast instantly, that fit perfectly with his swordsmanship-based fighting style. Used mid-battle, it could definitely create a devastating surprise. "Brother Yuzuru," Obito asked, "what about the other A-rank jutsu? I'll show you." Yuzuru formed a quick string of seals. Ox, rabbit, monkey, Chidori. Electric arcs wrapped around his right hand, and the shrill cry of 1,000 birds echoed through the training grounds. Then, in a flash of light, Yuzuru lunged forward like lightning. Crack. The thick wooden post, wide enough that 3 people together could barely wrap their arms around it, was pierced clean through. The sight made Obito tremble with excitement. "That's it, bro. That's the A-rank jutsu I want. Brother Yuzuru, please teach me Chidori." Compared to the Rasengan, Chidori wasn't just stronger. It had sound effects and a dramatic entrance. Obito was already imagining himself using it at the academy while everyone stared in awe and envy. "Obito, wipe your drool," Kakashi said dryly, pushing him aside. Obito quickly sniffed and straightened up. Yuzuru chuckled and shook his head. "Obito, I was planning to teach you Chidori anyway. Chidori's strength lies in its incredible speed and piercing power, but it requires exceptional dynamic vision. If your visual perception can't keep up, that speed becomes a danger to yourself. However, with the Sharingan, that problem disappears entirely." Then he turned to Kakashi. "Kakashi, you'll learn the Rasengan." Combined with the Hadake clan's swordsmanship, the Rasengan can be a deadly surprise weapon in close combat. Hearing that, both boys nodded enthusiastically. "Brother Yuzuru, can you start teaching us now?" Obito said eagerly. Yuzuru flicked his forehead. "You think learning an A-rank jutsu is that easy? I'll explain the principles and training methods first." The two immediately sat cross-legged on the ground, ready to listen. Time passed. Obito's head soon felt like it was going to explode. Hand seals, chakra nature transformation. It all sounded like some kind of divine riddle. Still, determined to show off later, he forced himself to memorize every word. Kakashi, on the other hand, listened with full concentration, occasionally raising thoughtful questions. The gap between genius and struggler was painfully clear. By the time Yuzuru finally stopped, the sun had already begun to set. "All right," he said. "You both know the theory and training methods for the Rasengan and Chidori. The rest depends on your own effort." Obito and Kakashi stood up and bowed respectfully. "Thank you for your hard work, Brother Yuzuru." "Thank you, Senior Yuzuru." Then Obito suddenly said, "Brother Yuzuru, since you care so much about us, why not just become our teacher?" "Nope, absolutely not." Yuzuru crossed his arms in front of his chest and refused immediately. Was this kid trying to set him up? The Hokage line had a long tradition of killing their masters. He wasn't about to invite that kind of bad omen. "All right then." Obito didn't seem too disappointed. He turned to Kakashi, grinning smugly. "Kakashi, don't feel bad just because I'm learning Chidori. You can be my sidekick from now on. After all, you don't have a Sharingan, so all you can do is learn a lower-tier jutsu like the Rasengan." Kakashi frowned. "Obito, the Rasengan isn't inferior to Chidori." Obito waved him off with a laugh. "Come on, Kakashi, you know it's true. Chidori looks cooler and hits harder, right, Brother Yuzuru?" Seeing Obito's triumphant grin, Yuzuru exhaled softly. "I told you, both are highly potential techniques. There's no such thing as one being lower than the other." "What, you doubting my judgment now?" Obito pouted. "But it's obvious, isn't it? The Rasengan looks plain and boring." Yuzuru stood up slowly, raising his right hand. "Obito, why don't you take another look then?" As he spoke, chakra began surging through his body. Obito and Kakashi watched in confusion as Yuzuru's voice dropped to a calm murmur. "Grand Rasengan." In the next instant, a massive sphere of chakra nearly 1 meter wide formed in his hand. The sight made Obito drop to the ground in shock. "Wait, what?" That thing was the same Rasengan from before. Under the watchful eyes of Kakashi Hadake and Obito Uchiha, Yuzuru slammed the massive Rasengan in his hand into the ground. In the next instant, the earth roared. The entire training field quaked, spiderweb cracks spreading in every direction. At the very center lay a gaping crater more than 10 meters wide. "It's so powerful." Seeing Obito and Kakashi's stunned expressions, Yuzuru chuckled. They really had no idea what true power looked like. "This is what I meant earlier," he said. "As long as your control is precise and your chakra sufficient, the greater your Rasengan's destructive force will be." Kakashi's eyes sparkled. "Senior Yuzuru, you also mentioned both techniques have great potential for development. Could you show us?" Yuzuru nodded. "Let's use the Rasengan as an example. By adding different chakra natures to it, you can alter its effects. For instance, lightning chakra. As soon as he said it, a new Rasengan formed in his palm. Yuzuru infused it with crackling lightning, then hurled it forward. The sphere vanished midair. A moment later, a tree in the distance split cleanly in half. It disappeared, Kakashi exclaimed. Clapping the dust off his hands, Yuzuru said evenly, compared to a normal Rasengan, one enhanced with chakra nature transformation has far greater power. But it's also far more dangerous. One slip and you could end up crippling yourself. So until you're absolutely confident, never attempt it lightly. Kakashi nodded solemnly, etching the warning into his heart. Beside him, Obito said enviously, "Brother Yuzuru, if the Rasengan's that strong, then the Chidori must be amazing too, right?" "Of course," Yuzuru replied, arcs of lightning sparking across his body. The Chidori can evolve into forms like the Chidori Stream and Lightning Cutter, each powerful in its own way. But their training difficulty increases severalfold. Obito and Kakashi exchanged glances, their faces full of excitement. "We'll work hard." Watching them, Yuzuru felt a strange sense of fate. How much these two resembled Naruto and Sasuke from the original story. Except now, the loudmouthed Obito was learning Chidori, and the cool prodigy Kakashi was practicing Rasengan. How amusing. Seeing Yuzuru fall silent, Obito tilted his head. "Brother Yuzuru, I've never heard of these jutsu before, and I've never seen anyone use them. Did you invent them yourself?" Yuzuru nodded. "The Chidori was something I created to complement the Sharingan. The Rasengan came from inspiration I gained after observing the tailed beast bomb." A man's reputation was his own to build, and Yuzuru had no problem claiming both as his original inventions. Hearing that, both Obito and Kakashi's admiration grew even deeper. To develop such powerful techniques, two at once, no less. This man was a genius among geniuses. Obito's eyes gleamed with anticipation. "Brother Yuzuru, if you ever create another new jutsu, you have to promise to teach me." Kakashi shot him a look of exasperation. "Obito, these are A-rank jutsu we're talking about. You can't just create them on a whim." Yuzuru suddenly laughed aloud. "Actually, it's easy for me to make ninjutsu like these. Doesn't even take effort. 3 days is all I need. Why not do it?" He smacked his cheeks with both hands. A real man's got to have pride. Before either of them could respond, Yuzuru stood up and started walking away from the field. "That's enough for today." Dismissed. As they watched him leave, Obito and Kakashi's faces flushed red with awe and excitement. He was so cool, almost absurdly so. "Brother Yuzuru, please keep teaching us." Konoha, year 45. Time passed like a fleeting shadow, 3 years gone in a blink. During that time, Yuzuru had not stirred up any new conflicts across the ninja world. Instead, he focused entirely on developing the Uchiha clan. Thanks to his efforts, marriages and childbirths within the clan had skyrocketed. The population grew from less than 6,000 to over 8,000. It was like watching a rocket take off. If not for the Uchiha being a clan of proud eccentrics and hopeless romantics, Yuzuru figured the numbers would have climbed even faster. But he wasn't in a hurry. As long as his policies continued, the expanding base population would lead to an exponential increase in new births. In time, the Uchiha would experience explosive growth. Panel. At his thought, a translucent screen appeared before him. Bloodline of the Yatsuki clan. Current evolution, 83%. Bloodline of the Chinook clan. Current evolution, 17%. After a quick glance, Yuzuru dismissed the panel. 3 years had passed, yet his Yatsuki bloodline still hadn't fully evolved. Though the Yatsuki were cheerful and outgoing by nature, most of the Uchiha still preferred marrying within their own clan. Can't really blame them. Their looks alone made that inevitable. Yuzuru couldn't exactly intervene in such personal choices. He couldn't very well order them to intermarry with the Yatsuki clan. That kind of selective policy would only create resentment, especially among those unaware of the system's existence. Still, many Yatsuki women were already pregnant. Once those children were born, his bloodline should complete its evolution, even without formal unions between the clans. As for the Chinook bloodline, their numbers were simply too few. There was no helping that in the short term. Nevertheless, even without full evolution, His body and spirit had both strengthened enormously, though not yet to the point of true transformation. Yuzuru, Kushina's voice called from outside. Yuzuru collected his thoughts and stepped out of his room. At the door, Kushina Uzumaki and Makoto Uchiha stood side by side, looking like twin flowers in full bloom. They wore elegant formal dresses, their faces graced with delicate makeup. Once budding girls, they had now matured into radiant women, each exuding her own quiet allure simply by standing there. I knew you wouldn't have prepared a thing. Kushina gave him an unimpressed look and shoved a neatly folded outfit into his arms. Scratching his head, Yuzuru asked, "Kushina, what's going on? You big idiot, did you forget?" She scolded, hands on her hips. Today's Fugaku-senpai's wedding. Thanks to Kushina Uzumaki's reminder, Yuzuru finally remembered Fugaku had mentioned not long ago that he was getting married. Thinking of that, Yuzuru smiled. "I've been a bit busy lately, totally forgot about it." "Good thing Makoto and I already prepared everything in advance for you," Kushina said. "Now hurry up and change." Yuzuru was pushed into the room by Kushina. When he came out dressed up a few minutes later, both Kushina and Makoto froze. He actually looked kind of handsome. Seeing their expressions, Yuzuru couldn't help feeling a little self-satisfied. When it came to looks, aside from my novel readers, he really didn't bow to anyone. "All right, let's go," he said, grabbing each of their hands and dragging both Makoto and Kushina along toward Fugaku's house. By the time they arrived, the courtyard was already packed. The third Reikage, Sakumo Hatake, and Tadai were chatting together. Teru Uchiha was bustling around with a broad smile, his face glowing with joy. When they saw Yuzuru, the group immediately gathered around. "Yuzuru, Kushina, Makoto, welcome, welcome," Yuzuru chuckled. "Old clan head, you really look great. A person feels happy and refreshed when good things happen." Teru stroked his beard and laughed heartily. "Ever since I stepped down as clan head, life's been a lot less stressful, all thanks to you, Yuzuru." Yuzuru shook his head. "You should thank your son instead. He's the one handling all the clan matters now. Thank him, I ought to beat him." Teru huffed. "That brat dragged his feet this long before getting married, nearly drove me to my grave." Yuzuru scratched his nose and stayed silent, but the third Reikage sighed with sympathy. "Clan head Teru, I understand you completely. At least your son's getting married today." "My son hasn't even found a girlfriend." He punctuated the complaint with a slap to A's neck, sulked and walked off to the side, muttering. He could never understand old people. What was so important about getting married? Always nagging, always pushing. Teru chuckled at the sight and said, "Reikage Dono, Sakumo, take my advice. I suggest you two also find partners while you're still somewhat young. Don't wait until you're a wrinkled geezer like me." "How did this conversation turn on us?" Sakumo muttered. Yuzuru, watching from the side, found himself oddly entertained. Why did this atmosphere feel so much like the New Year's celebrations in his previous life? While they were talking, Fugaku approached, holding a young woman's hand. The woman's features were delicate, and she looked very composed and gentle. She wasn't quite on the same level as Makoto or Kushina, but she was beautiful nonetheless. "Lord Reikage, Lord Sakumo, Brother Yuzuru, allow me to introduce my wife, Uchiha Misei." "It's an honor to meet you, my lords," she greeted politely. The third Reikage waved dismissively. "No need to be so formal. We're here as friends today." Fugaku smiled and nodded, then turned to Yuzuru. "You're turning 18 this month, right? You know, our clan encourages early marriage. As clan head, you ought to set an example." The others joined in teasing. Yuzuru didn't flinch. He grinned openly. "Before the end of the year, I'll definitely get married. When that happens, you're all invited to drink at my wedding banquet." "Good." The third Reikage's eyes lit up. The more he liked Yuzuru, the more he felt disappointed in A. With a glance at his son, he decided it was time to have a talk with his son. The wedding celebration lasted deep into the night. Everyone drank to their fill before parting ways. Still tipsy, Yuzuru went to visit Lihuo Uchiha for tea. Inside the room, Lihuo sat opposite Yuzuru, while Makoto and Kushina stood quietly to either side. "Yuzuru, have some tea," Lihuo said. "Yes, father-in-law, you first." Lihuo downed his cup in one go, then looked at Yuzuru, his eyes slightly hazy with drink. "Time flies. The little brat I used to watch grow up can almost outdrink me now." Yuzuru chuckled and poured him another cup. Uncle Lihuo, you're not wrong about that. I'll be an adult soon, and today the old clan head even urged me to get married quickly. Lihuo snorted with amusement. I knew you had something up your sleeve. Don't worry, he continued with a grin. Just set the date, leave the rest to me. Yuzuru had lost his parents young, and Lihuo had looked after him ever since. Now that Yuzuru was set to marry his daughter, Lihuo intended to handle the entire wedding himself. Overjoyed, Yuzuru pulled 2 red envelopes from his robe and placed them on the table. Uncle Lihuo, this is just a small token of my appreciation. Lihuo frowned. Yuzuru, what's that supposed to mean? You think I'm selling my daughter for money? Of course not, Yuzuru explained quickly. It's not much, just my way of showing gratitude. Please let me express it somehow. After a moment, Lihuo nodded. Fine, I'll accept it. But I'll return it to you after the wedding. He picked up the envelopes, then blinked in confusion. Wait, Yuzuru, why did you give me 2 red envelopes? The next morning, Yuzuru stumbled out of Lihuo's house with dark circles under his eyes. He was exhausted, but there was a satisfied grin on his face. After a night of hard persuasion, he had finally convinced his future father-in-law. All that was left was the wedding ceremony, and both Mikoto Uchiha and Kushina Uzumaki would officially become his wives. The thought alone made Yuzuru swing his arms in giddy triumph. Perfect. After venting his excitement, Yuzuru felt completely refreshed. He went to Yuriko Uchiha's breakfast shop, devoured a hearty meal, then stopped by a sweets shop outside the clan grounds. Boss, 10 skewers of tricolor dango. Got it, 1 moment please. After paying, Yuzuru looked around for a seat, but the place was packed. Just as he was about to stand and wait, a small boy, no more than 5 years old, waved at him from across the room. Clan head Yuzuru, over here. Yuzuru looked over and froze for a second. That big garlic-shaped nose, why did it look so strangely familiar? Clan head Yuzuru, there's still a seat here if you don't mind, please sit for a bit. The boy spoke up cheerfully when he saw Yuzuru approach. Yuzuru nodded and, pretending to be curious, asked, Brat, what's your name? The boy froze for a moment as memories of what Obito Uchiha had told him about Yuzuru flickered through his mind. Obito had warned him that Yuzuru could be a little unpleasant. Sure enough, just as Obito had said, clan head Yuzuru's manner had a slightly sharp edge. Thinking this, the boy straightened and replied seriously, Clan head Yuzuru, I'm not a brat. My name is Shisui. Uchiha Shisui. Hearing that, Yuzuru rubbed his chin. He hadn't been mistaken. This little boy in front of him was the same Shisui who, in the original story, would one day unleash the legendary Genjutsu and be known as one of the greatest. Like Itachi, Shisui was a prodigy. Even at a very young age, he had made a name for himself on the battlefield against Kirigakure, earning the moniker Shisui of the body flicker. His mastery of Genjutsu rivaled Itachi's. There had been a time when a single glance from him left an opponent rolling their eyes white and fleeing the field. Unfortunately, in the original timeline, Shisui was brainwashed by Danzo Shimura and Hiruzen Sarutobi and ended up a sad, simple soul who, blind and broken, leapt off a cliff to his death. Even Kabuto Yakushi, the so-called master of resurrecting dreams, couldn't find a body to reanimate. It was a truly tragic end. How old are you, Shisui? Yuzuru, now somewhat interested, chatted with him. His gaze shifted to the skewers of 3-colored dango on the table. Clan head Yuzuru, I'm already 5 years old. Subscribe for more amazing novel audiobooks. Don't forget to like, comment, and share Infinite Novel Audio. Noticing Yuzuru's look, Shisui calmly pulled the skewer of dango closer to himself. Yuzuru couldn't help but say, Shisui, you're a little possessive about your food, huh? I am not. Uchiha Shisui shook his head. Brother Obito said that you used to steal his food all the time, so he told me to protect my food if I ever met you. Uchiha Yuzuru's mouth twitched, reputation damaged. When he saw Obito again, he'd give that bastard a proper scolding. Seeing Yuzuru's silent amusement, Shisui stuck his tongue out sheepishly. He'd accidentally said what was on his mind. He then handed a skewer over to Yuzuru. Clan head Yuzuru, here, eat it and then come ask me for more. Yuzuru said with an amused shake of his head, though he didn't seriously scold a 5-year-old. After a little while, Yuzuru's own dango was brought to him. He munched idly and asked, "Shisui, are you enjoying life in the village?" At that, Shisui wore a guileless smile. "Yes, very much. Everyone is so kind to me. The teachers and my classmates at the Ninja Academy all like me and speak so nicely. I love it here." Yuzuru wasn't surprised by Shisui's answer. Even Obaido could become a notable figure in the cloud-hidden village. Prodigies like Shisui would be fawned over. The grievances the Uchiha clan suffered in the original timeline. Only the backstabbing wolves of Konoha could have managed such treatment. "By the way, clan head Yuzuru," Shisui asked with curious eyes, "why did you lead our Uchiha clan away from Konoha back then?" Shisui had been under 2 years old when they left Konoha, so he had no memory of it. His only knowledge of Konoha was that it was the village the Uchiha once helped establish. He couldn't understand why Yuzuru would move the whole clan out of the village they had founded and resettle in the cloud-hidden village. Yuzuru took a bite of his dango and answered lightly, "Konoha isn't like the cloud-hidden village. People there resent the Uchiha. They fear our power and treat us as an unstable element. Konoha's leaders even built a prison beside our clan lands and kept watch on us for 24 hours, claiming it was to monitor criminals. They kept saying the same thing over and over, that we are naturally evil, the Uchiha." Before Yuzuru could finish, Shisui suddenly stood up. Tears welled and tracked down his cheeks. He looked wronged and indignant. "We built Konoha for them. If they aren't grateful, fine, but how can they say such things about us? Our clan members are kind. The people in the village are willing to be our friends. We aren't an evil clan. Our hearts are full of love." Shisui's reaction took Yuzuru aback. He had only stated the facts, so why did this child seem so hurt? Then something even more shocking happened. Shisui's dark eyes flashed scarlet. A single Magatama spun slowly in his pupils. He awakened. Though it was only a 1 Magatama Sharingan, Shisui was only 5 years old. After his initial surprise, Yuzuru realized why. Thanks to his relationship with the third Reikage, the cloud-hidden village and the Uchiha clan were enjoying a honeymoon period. A brilliant young Uchiha like Shisui had grown up in a honeyed life. Well-fed, surrounded by warm and kind people, and treated like the sun at the Ninja Academy. In that environment, Shisui's previously saintly temperament had become fragile, a glass heart raised on praise. Shisui hadn't noticed his change. He wiped his tears with his sleeve and fixed his gaze with resolve. "Clan head Yuzuru, I will explain to those people in Konoha. I will make them understand that the Uchiha are not what they think." Yuzuru smiled and pushed another skewer toward him. "So what are you going to do, Shisui? If talking it out with Konoha worked, then I wouldn't have had to lead the whole Uchiha clan to the cloud-hidden village." Shisui's voice turned serious. "Brother Obaido once told me you told him that without strength you can do nothing. So I must obtain enough power. Then those Konoha people will sit down calmly and listen to me. And if they still won't listen," Yuzuru asked, "then, as you said at the clan meeting, make them all disappear. There's no need for hopeless people in this world." Yuzuru gave him a thumbs up. "Not bad, very spirited, I support you." It was true. Upbringing matters. Compared to the simple, tragic saint from the original tale, this Shisui, groomed in comfort and admiration, had become far more appealing at first glance. Feeling embarrassed by Yuzuru's praise, Shisui scratched his head. "Actually, I've just been learning from you, Lord Yuzuru. Your sayings have really inspired everyone in the clan." Yuzuru smiled faintly. "All right, enough flattery. You should check your eyes first." As he spoke, he casually used a water release to form a smooth water mirror in the air. Shisui glanced curiously at the reflection, and then his mouth fell open. "Lord Yuzuru, my eyes." Seeing his astonished expression, Yuzuru said calmly, "It's just as you see. You've awakened your Sharingan." Shisui's face lit up with excitement. "That's great. Now I can go on missions with Brother Obaido." With Obaido, Yuzuru looked puzzled and Shisui explained. "Clan head, Brother Obaido said that once I awakened my Sharingan, he'd take me with him on missions. Don't be fooled by my age. In the academy, even older students like Ujido, Mabui, and Samui can't beat me." Hearing those familiar names, Yuzuru couldn't help but sigh inwardly. In the original story, those three would become the famous 3 flowers of the cloud. But right now, they were just little academy girls. Clan head Yuzuru, I'm going to find brother Abido. With that, Shisui spun around and ran off. Watching the boy's boundless energy, Yuzuru smiled faintly. So different from the overly serious child in the original timeline, this was how a 5-year-old was supposed to be. A week later, Yuzuru was lounging in the training field, basking lazily in the sun. In the center of the field, Makoto Uchiha, Kushina Uzumaki, and Karura were sparring fiercely, their movements fluid and powerful. Each strike and dodge carried a subtle, captivating grace unique to women. Just as Yuzuru was watching the scene with great appreciation, 3 little troublemakers burst into the training grounds. Big brother Yuzuru, finally found you, Abido shouted in his usual booming voice. Seeing Abido, Kakashi, and Shisui together, Yuzuru raised a brow. You're looking for me. Abido nodded eagerly. Big brother Yuzuru, we want to take on higher-ranked missions outside the village, but we need your help. Yuzuru glanced at the Cloud Village forehead protectors on Abido and Kakashi's heads, puzzled. Aren't you two already genin? You can just pick missions from the task hall, Abido sighed. We could, but Shisui wants to come too. He's not a genin yet, so he can't take missions outside the village like us. Then just don't bring Shisui, Yuzuru said flatly. Abido looked offended. Big brother Yuzuru. I'm his big brother, you can't underestimate our bond. Kakashi and Shisui both bowed deeply. Please, Senior Yuzuru, clan head. Unable to stand there pleading, Yuzuru sighed. Fine, I'll help you this once, but just this once. He wasn't particularly busy anyway. A little trip outside the village might even be relaxing. When Yuzuru agreed, the 3 boys cheered in excitement and practically dragged him toward the mission hall. After briefly telling Makoto, Kushina, and Karura where he was going, Yuzuru followed the boys into the bustling mission hall. The place was packed, with every ninja flipping through mission listings. Ever since the Cloud Village had defeated the allied shinobi forces, most employers prioritized hiring from the Cloud. As a result, missions were abundant, there was never any shortage of work. Yuzuru picked up a mission scroll and began to browse idly. Help an old lady find her cat, feed pigs. A widow fears thunderstorms at night, requests a ninja to stand guard, Uchiha clan preferred. What the hell is all this? Yuzuru muttered, skipping the trivial ones and flipping to the last few pages, where one mission suddenly caught his eye. The Queen of Reborn Kingdom has died mysteriously. Citizens have been abducted and gone missing, seeking skilled investigative shinobi to uncover the truth. Includes map of Roran's location. At the sight of that word, Roran, memories stirred in Yuzuru's mind. Roran lay within the land of wind, surrounded by endless desert, its size comparable to a small town. The nation had no ninja of its own, but it possessed the Ryumyaku vein, a powerful source of energy. In the original story, a rogue from Sunagakuren named Anrokuzen sought to harness the Ryumyaku vein's power, triggering a time-space distortion that sent Naruto Uzumaki and others into the past, where they met Minato Namikaze's squad. Judging by Kakashi's age at that time, it must have been right before the Third Great Ninja War, just before Sakumo Hatake's death. That meant the timeline aligned perfectly. So because Cloud's reputation now surpasses Konoha's, the Roran mission came to us instead. Yuzuru murmured, already forming a theory. Abido leaned over curiously. Big brother Yuzuru, what is it? Yuzuru smiled. I've found us a suitable mission. The Ryumyaku vein's power was immense, virtually limitless. If he could secure that power for himself during the mission, it would be quite a gain. Let me see. Abido snatched the mission scroll with Kakashi and Shisui crowding in beside him. Moments later, all 3 widened their eyes. It's an A-rank mission. See, can we even take that? Even Kakashi, usually the calm one, looked uncertain. As genin, they were only cleared for D or C-rank missions. Even with Yuzuru leading them, they had assumed the best they could attempt was a B-rank mission at most. Who could have guessed he'd go straight for an A-rank? A-rank missions were the ceiling for most shinobi. Many involved national strategies or village secrets, and the outcome could shift regional power balances. As Senior Yuzuru, can we really do this? Clan head, that's an A-rank mission. I'm confident in my skills, but isn't this a bit much? Abido asked nervously. Will the mission evaluation even approve us? Seeing their anxious faces, Yuzuru replied coolly, if you want higher-ranked missions, then commit all the way. As for the evaluation, his tone brimmed with confidence. With me here, even an S-rank mission wouldn't be a problem. Seeing the confidence on Uchiha Yuzuru's face, Hade, Kakashi, and the others finally came to their senses. Right. The man standing before them wasn't just anyone. He was Uchiha Yuzuru, the one who had crushed the entire allied shinobi force with a single strike and shaken the entire ninja world. With him leading the mission, even an S-rank task would be nothing to worry about. Realizing this, Obito, Kakashi, and Shisui all nodded firmly. Big brother Yuzuru, let's take this mission. All right, let's go, Yuzuru said with a small laugh, leading the three youths to the mission counter. Before long, they had officially taken the support Rorin mission. Once outside the mission hall, Yuzuru glanced up at the sky and said, "Go prepare your things. We leave tomorrow morning." "Yes, sir." The next day, by the time Yuzuru appeared, Obito and the others had already been waiting for nearly 3 hours. They'd been so excited the day before that they forgot to ask for the exact meeting time. As a result, they'd rushed over before dawn, only to end up waiting all morning. "Big brother Yuzuru, why are you so late?" Obito complained. He hadn't even eaten breakfast, terrified of being late for once. Yuzuru gave him a mildly surprised look. "I thought you'd be the one running late, so I didn't hurry." Hearing that, both Kakashi and Shisui fell silent. Given what they knew of Obito, Yuzuru's logic was perfectly sound. "All right, it's getting late. Let's get moving," Yuzuru said, turning toward the road. The three immediately followed. "Let's rest here for a bit." As the sun dipped toward the horizon, Yuzuru decided to stop for the day. Obito quickly began scouting the surroundings, Kakashi gathered firewood, and Shisui took the chance to set a few traps. Even though ninja could travel quickly, the distance between the land of lightning and the land of wind was simply enormous. It took them half a month just to reach the border. What a pain. "That was one long trip," Obito grumbled, sitting beside Yuzuru after a quick perimeter check. Traveling had become much harder once they left the land of lightning, no proper roads, rough terrain, and barely any infrastructure. The difference was night and day. Shisui nodded in agreement. "Big brother Yuzuru, people out here live so poorly. Shouldn't we help them rebuild?" Yuzuru raised an eyebrow. "Even if we wanted to, they might not want our help." "That's easy," Shisui said with a cheerful grin. "If we conquer them first, we can help them after." Yuzuru's mouth twitched. "If you won't accept my kindness, I'll beat you until you do." How very Uchiha of him. Just then, Kakashi stacked up the wood he'd collected. "Yuzuru-senpai, should I start the fire?" "Go ahead." With Yuzuru's approval, Kakashi lit the fire. Yuzuru then pulled out several thick lamb legs from his kamui space and said, "One for each of you." Shisui quietly set aside the mission log, looking conflicted. "Clan head Yuzuru, is it really okay to make a fire like this? Wouldn't ration pills be better?" Stealth was crucial for any mission. Building a campfire at night was practically an open invitation to be found. Yuzuru nodded slightly. "You're right, don't do this when you're on your own missions. Of course, if you ever have enough power to defeat anyone who comes your way, then you can act like me." With that, Yuzuru sprinkled spices over the roasting lamb legs. In an instant, the air filled with a mouth-watering aroma. It wasn't that they couldn't afford ration pills. It was that roasted lamb offered far better value for morale. After a while, with Yuzuru, Obito, and Kakashi all devouring their meat with oily grins, Shisui couldn't hold back anymore. Forget it, he'd eat too. Delicious. With Yuzuru leading them, everything followed one rule. Do whatever you please. To Obito and the others, it almost didn't feel like an A-rank mission. It felt more like a sightseeing trip. Another week passed before they finally found Rorin, rising out of the desert. They stood awestruck at the sight before them, towering spires that reached the clouds, gleaming in the sunlight. "What strange architecture," Obito murmured. "So this is Rorin." Even from a distance, they could feel an immense, unsettling energy radiating from within. "Stay close when we enter." "We're gathering intel first," Yuzuru ordered. "Understood." Seeing Yuzuru's serious expression, the three straightened immediately. This was, after all, an A-rank mission. There was no room for carelessness. Under Yuzuru's lead, they slipped effortlessly into Rorin. Tower after tower loomed high, linked together by countless metal pipes that stretched like veins through a living body. The streets were empty, the silence heavy. The entire city looked like a graveyard. "Why is it so quiet here? This is weird," Abaito muttered. Kakashi and Shisui drew their short blades, tense and ready for anything. After walking toward the city's center for some time, Yuzuru suddenly caught the faint sound of a melancholic song. He frowned and looked toward a nearby abandoned tower. The voice was coming from within. "Let's check it out." Abaito darted in first, followed closely by Shisui and Kakashi. Inside, they found a long-haired woman sitting amid the ruins, singing softly. Noticing their presence, she turned abruptly, and then bolted into a passageway. "Wait." Abaito lunged after her, but two puppets suddenly emerged from the corridor, charging straight at him. Fire style, great fireball jutsu. With his hands flashing through seals, Abaito unleashed a massive fireball that swallowed the puppets whole, scattering their parts across the floor. "Ichimpi." "Too easy." Abaito let out a satisfied huff, but his teammates' faces suddenly changed. "Abaito, look out." He turned just in time to see the scattered puppet parts pulling themselves back together. The reconstructed puppets lunged, blades whirring. Startled, Abaito stumbled backward and tripped, falling to the ground. Just as he thought it was over, the puppets abruptly lost power and collapsed at the tunnel's edge. "Phew, that was close." Abaito patted his chest, still shaken. He'd nearly died just now. "Brother Abaito, are you okay?" Shisui ran over, looking at Abaito nervously. Abaito, feeling that his pride had taken a hit, puffed up his chest and said, "Actually, I was just testing them on purpose. I already saw through those puppets' weaknesses." Shisui blinked in surprise. "What weaknesses?" Abaito froze, clearly not having thought that far ahead. Before he could make something up, Kakashi said seriously, "It seems this place can cut off whatever's controlling those two puppets. Things here aren't as simple as we thought. We'll have to stay cautious." Abaito pointed at Kakashi. "You just love stealing the spotlight. I was about to say that myself." Kakashi rolled his eyes and walked ahead toward the direction they came from. "Brother Yuzuru," Kakashi reported, "we found a woman, but she escaped. Two puppets also attacked us. Could this be the work of Sunagakure?" After all, in the entire shinobi world, only the ninja of Sunagakure were known for using puppets. Uchiha Yuzuru nodded. "Very possible." It wasn't often such chances arose. Letting Kakashi, Abaito, and Shisui get some live combat experience wasn't a bad thing. He could afford to raise his clansmen in comfort, but he would never let them grow into naive fools. As they spoke, three more puppets armed with blades charged at them. Yuzuru frowned slightly and stepped back, shielding the three boys behind him. Kakashi was the first to draw his short blade and rush forward. Abaito followed, and Shisui's Sharingan lit up. The puppets weren't particularly fast. The real problem was that they could continually reassemble themselves. Still, the three of them had no trouble managing. "Brother Abaito, Kakashi-senpai, these puppets are being controlled by chakra threads. We need to cut those threads to finish this quickly." Through his Sharingan, Shisui could see several chakra lines running from each puppet's body into the overhead pipes. As soon as he spoke, Shisui raised his hand. Fire style, great fireball jutsu. The fireball engulfed the puppet instantly. Hearing him, Kakashi and Abaito also unleashed their own jutsu. Lightning style, Chidori, Rasengan. The three puppets shattered under their combined assault. Following Shisui's direction, Kakashi infused chakra into a Fuma Shuriken and hurled it into the air, slicing through the last of the chakra lines. This time, the puppets stayed motionless. Huff, huff, the three boys were panting hard. For a first mission, facing endlessly regenerating puppets was more than a little intense. "Kakashi, Abaito, Shisui," Yuzuru said as he assessed their fight, "when dealing with puppets, don't waste too much chakra. And remember, the first thing you should always think about is cutting the chakra threads controlling them." "Understood." Just then, cheers erupted from somewhere in the distance. Kakashi, Abaito, and Shisui exchanged glances and immediately ran toward the sound. So that's where everyone went. Hidden in the shadows, Abaito looked out at the large crowd gathered ahead. He was a little stunned. Fireworks burst. Parade floats rolled through the streets. Banners and ribbons fluttered in the wind. Thousands of neatly dressed citizens stood along the road, faces bright with excitement. hands raised in fervent cheers. "Long live the Queen, Queen, our Queen." Following their gaze, the group looked up. On the balcony of the tallest tower, a woman wearing a crown and an ornate gown stepped out, flanked by two puppets. The cheers grew even louder. The woman smiled and waved graciously at the crowd below. "So she's the queen, huh? Then she must know everything about this place, the land of Rorin." Kakashi mused. Obito nodded eagerly. "Let's go talk to her." Shisui and Kakashi both agreed. Just as they prepared to approach, the woman suddenly gasped. The balcony beneath her shattered, and she plummeted from hundreds of meters above. Oh no. Obito jumped up instantly, ready to catch her, but Yuzuru's hand pressed firmly on his shoulder, forcing him back down. "Obito, you're still too young. You can't handle this kind of thing. Leave it to me." The moment he finished speaking, Yuzuru vanished. When he reappeared, he was in midair, the Queen of Rorin safely in his arms. They landed gracefully on the ground. Yuzuru looked down at her. "Are you hurt?" The woman blinked her eyes open and upon seeing his face gasped, "Es so handsome." Huh. Yuzuru hadn't expected that to be her first response. He sighed helplessly. "Spend some time with me and you'll realize, being handsome is actually the least impressive thing about me." The woman blinked, suddenly realizing she was being carried princess style in a stranger's arms. Embarrassed and flustered, she raised a hand to strike him. "You insolent man." Yuzuru easily caught her smooth, pale wrist. "Is this how you repay your savior?" he said, clearly unimpressed. Only then did the woman remember she had fallen from that high tower, and this man had just saved her life. "I suppose I should thank you first," she said awkwardly. "Thank you for saving me." Yuzuru waved it off. "It's fine. What's your name?" "Sarah," she said, lowering her head shyly under his handsome gaze. "See, could you please put me down first? This isn't proper. You could have said that sooner." Yuzuru looked as if he'd only just realized, setting her gently on the ground. Sarah puffed her cheeks in annoyance, like I'd believe that. By then, Obito, Shisui, and Kakashi had caught up. Seeing that Yuzuru had safely rescued the queen, they all let out a breath of relief. "This isn't the place to talk," Yuzuru said. Before Sarah could protest, Yuzuru scooped her back into his arms, drawing a startled yelp from her, and leapt toward the ruined tower where they had first found her. A place shielded from the Ryumiyaku vein's power, where they could speak freely without interference from Mucade. Inside the abandoned tower, Sarah looked at Yuzuru, Uchiha, Obito, and the others. "Who are you, and why have you come to Rorin?" Obito immediately replied, "We're ninja from the Hidden Cloud Village. We came here because of your request." "Request?" Sarah frowned, "but I never sent any request." Scratching his head, Obito said, "That I'm not sure about. Our mission is to investigate the cause of the former queen's death and the strange disappearance of Rorin's citizens." Because Sarah was the new queen of Rorin, Obito didn't bother hiding the mission's purpose. "By the way, how did you suddenly fall from the tower just now?" Sarah thought for a moment before replying uncertainly. "I felt someone push me, and then the window shattered." "That's it," Obito said excitedly. "Whoever was behind you at that moment must be the murderer responsible for the queen's death and the disappearance of the citizens." But to Obito's surprise, Sarah's expression darkened. "Impossible. Anrokuzen has always been loyal to Rorin. My mother trusted him completely. Without him, Rorin wouldn't be what it is today. And you saw it yourself, my citizens are still cheering for me. They're nothing like what you're describing." Obito frowned. "Then how do you explain our mission? And didn't you just say someone pushed you from the tower?" Sarah stood up coldly. "No matter what you say, I don't trust you. I'll ask Anrokuzen myself." With that, she ran off. Obito, Kakashi, and Shisui were left dumbfounded. This woman doesn't listen to reason at all. Only Yuzuru looked unsurprised. To Sarah, Anrokuzen was a hero of Rorin, the one who had worked tirelessly for its prosperity. It was the sudden arrival of strangers like them that seemed untrustworthy. "Yuzuru, what do we do now?" Obito asked. Yuzuru shrugged. "Decide for yourselves." Kakashi's expression hardened. "Obito, Shisui, will follow her. She's going straight to Anrokuzen." "Got it." The three quickly followed after Sarah. HMPH. Those Cloud Village guys make no sense. Anrokuzen isn't that kind of person. Sarah muttered angrily as she hurried through the corridor. Suddenly, a nearby door opened and she was pulled inside. The room was dark. Dozens of masked figures in black glared at her. "Where are our families being held?" Sarah froze, panicked. "What do you mean, your families? So it's true, you really are the puppet princess. You don't know anything." The leaders sighed in disappointment and lowered their weapon. At that moment, the door burst open from the outside. "Let go of Queen Sarah," Obito shouted as he rushed in, followed by Shisui and Kakashi. Seeing the glint of kunai and short blades, the masked figures immediately crouched down with their hands on their heads. "Don't kill us. We mean no harm." The lights flickered on, and Sarah finally saw them clearly. None of the black-clad people even carried proper weapons. They didn't look like assassins at all. Kakashi stepped forward. "Who are you?" he asked sharply. The masked figures exchanged glances before removing their coverings. The two in front spoke nervously. "My name is Sarai. This is Masako." "We're citizens of Roran," Sarah asked in disbelief. "Then why were you looking for me?" Sarai answered. "One morning, all of our family members were taken away. We heard they were being forced to make puppets somewhere. At first, we thought you might know something. But you really are just what people say, a puppet princess who knows nothing. No wonder nobody likes you." "Sarai," Masako interrupted and bowed to Sarah. "Forgive her, Lady Sarah." Sarah ignored the apology and pressed on. "I've never given such an order, and I'm no puppet princess." "You say everyone dislikes me. Then listen carefully," Sarah pointed outside in defiance. "My people are out there cheering for me," Masako sighed. "Lady Sarah, please come with us." The group headed outside. Sarah hesitated briefly, then followed them, with Obito and the others trailing behind. Soon they reached the open square beneath the tower. Sarah pointed ahead at the crowd. "Look, my people are right there, cheering for me." Before Masako could respond, Shisui darted forward and slashed several times through the air with his kunai. In an instant, several people collapsed onto the ground. Dragging one closer, Shisui said, "Queen Sarah, these are all puppets. They're being controlled through the chakra flowing inside the pipes." Sarah covered her mouth in shock. "That chakra, it's the power of the Ryumiyaku vein. How could this be?" At that moment, the music swelled. Fireworks exploded in the sky and the cheers grew louder. Sarah looked up on top of the tower. A puppet identical to her had stepped out, waving gracefully to the crowd. Sarai looked at her. "Now do you believe us, Lady Sarah?" The truth was undeniable. Sarah fell to the ground, her strength gone. Memories of Anrokusen filled her mind. When she was young, he had come to Roran. Under his guidance, they learned to harness the Ryumiyaku vein's power, and the people lived happily. Tower after tower rose, turning the desert into a miracle. After her mother's death, Anrokusen had stayed by her side, and Roran continued to flourish. But now, what was this nightmare? Crying won't solve anything. "Anrokusen's ambition is clear as day," Yuzuru said quietly. "For your people's sake, you must stand up again." Sarah stared blankly at the hand Yuzuru extended to her, then nodded firmly. "You're right. We have to find the source of the Ryumiyaku vein. Now, the entire kingdom of Roran operated on the energy supplied by the Ryumiyaku vein. Whatever Anrokusen intended to do, all they had to do was sever his connection to it. Then everything would become simple. We're coming with you." Yuzuru Uchiha pulled Sarah to her feet, then turned to Sarai and Masako. "You two stay here. If we find your families, we'll bring them back safely." Sarah nodded. "I swear on my name as queen." "We understand." Sarai and Masako bowed deeply to Sarah and Yuzuru before retreating into the shadows to hide. Sarah closed her eyes, sensing the Ryumiyaku vein's flow. "Follow me," she said. Yuzuru, Obito, Shisui, and Hatache followed her down a passage that resembled an underground sewer. It should be just beneath this place. After inspecting the area, Yuzuru scooped Sarah into his arms. "Hold tight, I'll take you down." Having already been carried by Yuzuru several times, Sarah had become rather numb to it. She simply nodded and said nothing. The others followed as they leapt down into the depths. "Whoa, this place is massive, like a gigantic factory," Obito gasped as his voice echoed through the chamber. Kakashi's eyes narrowed at the thick mist swirling in the air. What incredible density of energy. This must be the Ryumiyaku vein's power. Yuzuru gently set Sarah down. At that moment, Shisui suddenly shouted, "Everyone, look over there." Following his finger, Sarah's pupils contracted. At the center of the underground factory was a colossal gear-like mechanism. Hundreds of half-naked Roran citizens were pushing it in circles like living machines. On the conveyor belts beside them, puppet parts were slowly being assembled. Most of the workers were strong young men, their expressions vacant. Chains bound their wrists and ankles, while dozens of armed puppets stood guard, overseeing the work. That bastard Anrokusen! Sarah's fury exploded as she witnessed the horrifying scene. She ran forward, closing her eyes and focusing on suppressing the Ryumyaku vein's energy. Moments later, the machinery ground to a halt. Sarah turned back with a relieved smile. "It's done. I've cut off the Ryumyaku vein's supply to the factory. Please help me free my people from those chains." The ever-enthusiastic Abido was already on the move. Together with Shisui and Kakashi, he dashed forward. With a chorus of metallic clangs, every chain shattered under their strikes. "I am Sarah, your new queen. Your families are waiting for you outside. You are free now." The workers froze in disbelief, then dropped to their knees in unison. "Thank you, Queen Sarah. Go, leave this place quickly," she urged. Under her command, the freed citizens fled in waves, and soon the factory was empty and silent. "I can feel it. The Ryumyaku vein's source lies one layer deeper. Let's hurry." But just as Sarah prepared to completely seal the Ryumyaku vein's power, disaster struck. The factory's puppets began to converge from every direction, quickly surrounding them. A man with a thick beard descended slowly by elevator. "Sarah, so you're still alive." Sarah glared at him in rage. "Anrokusen, what are you trying to do?" Anrokusen snorted coldly. "I will use the Ryumyaku vein's power to unify the entire ninja world ahead of its time. My arrival here was destiny itself." "What?" Abido shouted. "So it was you. You killed the Queen of Roran, didn't you?" Anrokusen shrugged indifferently. "She could have stayed quiet and let history unfold, but she chose to oppose me. She had no idea how terrifying the future shinobi world would become." Sarah's fists trembled. "Anrokusen, you killed my mother." He nodded without hesitation. "That's right. Unfortunately, you learned the truth too late. You'll die here as well." After years of preparation, his plans for the Ryumyaku vein were complete. Even without the queen's bloodline, it would continue functioning exactly as he designed. Sarah no longer had any purpose. But then his eyes landed on Yuzuru Uchiha, and the smug confidence drained from his face. You're, his voice shook. "Yuzuru Uchiha." Yuzuru raised an eyebrow. "You know me." Receiving a fearful nod, Anrokusen stumbled back a few steps before his eyes hardened again. "It doesn't matter. I control the Ryumyaku vein now. I'm not afraid of you." As he shouted, the Ryumyaku vein's energy erupted violently. Puppets all around them activated and opened fire. Beams of purple light blasted through the air, and in an instant, the entire factory was reduced to rubble. "Let's see you three they handle this," Yuzuru said calmly, carrying Sarah as he leapt onto a high platform. Abido adjusted his goggles confidently. "Heh. Time for the great Abido to teach this guy a lesson." Shisui drew his short blade. "The world must move according to Lord Yuzuru's will. I'll change your warped ideals myself." Kakashi said nothing, charging forward with his short sword. The three plunged into battle, clashing against the army of puppets. Thanks to their previous encounters, they didn't fight head-on. Instead, they focused on severing the chakra threads connecting each puppet to the Ryumyaku vein. "It's useless," Anrokusen roared, laughing wildly. "As long as the Ryumyaku vein flows, my power is infinite." Even the disabled puppets reactivated, rejoining the fight. Sarah turned to Yuzuru, who still sat calmly beside her. "Yuzuru, aren't you going to help them? I could use the chance to sever his link to the Ryumyaku vein." Yuzuru shook his head. "They can handle this much. Let them get some real combat experience." Sarah stared at him in disbelief. This guy's nerves are made of steel, she thought. Anrokusen controlled the power of the Ryumyaku vein itself. Seeing her worry, Yuzuru smiled faintly. "Don't worry, Sarah. As long as I'm here, Anrokusen is no threat, even with the Ryumyaku vein's power." He pointed at himself with his thumb. "Because I, Yuzuru Uchiha, wield the power of a god." Subscribe for more amazing novel audiobooks. Don't forget to like, comment, and share Infinite Novel Audio. Sarah was speechless for a moment, staring at him. Come to think of it, Anrokusen had looked terrified when he saw Yuzuru. Could it be that this man truly possessed power strong enough to stand against the Ryumyaku vein itself? Yuzuru Uchiha didn't join the fight. Sarah could only remain at his side, watching the battlefield below in silence. By now, Abaito, Hatache, and Shisui were completely surrounded by puppet soldiers. Unlike battles between shinobi, those puppet soldiers drew on the Ryumyaku vein's power. No matter how many times they were shattered, they could reform instantly. They felt no fear, no emotion, only the relentless swing of blades and a constant barrage of energy blasts. For a time, Abaito and the others were in grave danger. My puppet soldiers are endless. Today you are meant to die here. After the initial panic, Anrokuzen's mood had calmed. He crossed his arms and looked down upon Abaito and the others with a smug expression. From the puppet's performance so far, his years of effort had clearly paid off. With enough numbers, sweeping through the shinobi world seemed entirely possible. Of course, Abaito, Shisui, and Kakashi already understood what the puppet soldiers could do, so they had no intention of wasting time trading blows. What looked like frantic dodging was actually them steadily moving toward Anrokuzen's position. Abaito, Kakashi-senpai, I'll clear the path for you. Shisui called when the distance closed. He loosened the sealing jutsu on his wrist and produced a massive wind shuriken. In the next instant, Shisui poured chakra into the wind shuriken and launched it above the puppet soldiers. He manipulated steel wire from his hand. The giant wind shuriken spun at high speed, slicing through the threads that linked the puppet soldiers to the Ryumyaku vein. In a flash, the puppets blocking their way collapsed to the ground. Now, Abaito hurled Kakashi's body forward. A blade light streaked across. Kakashi's short blade plunged into Anrokuzen's chest. We did it. Abaito and Shisui both wore smiles of relief. Only Kakashi sensed something wrong. Ha ha ha, Anrokuzen laughed. You really thought that would defeat me? Preparing to declare war on the entire shinobi world, I certainly had precautions. He kicked Kakashi away, flinging him with brutal force. Then, shrugging off his cloak, parts from the surrounding puppet soldiers began to converge on Anrokuzen. With a grinding, teeth-gnashing creak, a gigantic spider-like puppet coalesced in front of them. How? What is this? He actually turned his own body into a puppet. Abaito and the others stared in horror. None of them had expected someone to modify their body into such a monstrous form. Anrokuzen laughed triumphantly. I've long given up being human. Now I have no weaknesses. I am the undying, imperishable Anrokuzen. He brought his massive frame down on the three of them. Against a titanic monster like that, Abaito, Shisui, and Kakashi could only dodge and weave. Is that all you can do? Run, Anrokuzen sneered. Shut up, you monster, Abaito roared, forming hand signs. Chidori, Abaito unleashed the Chidori and lunged at Anrokuzen. Kakashi, with the last of his chakra, shaped and thrust a Rasengan into Anrokuzen's body. Boom. A tremendous explosion ripped two huge holes in the beast's torso. But under the Ryumyaku vein's influence, the damage healed in moments. See, mere humans cannot hope to defeat me, Anrokuzen cried, swinging his scythe-like arm down at Abaito and Kakashi. They felt sweat bead on their foreheads. We can't dodge this. After such intense fighting, their stamina and chakra were nearly gone. That strike had been their all-out gamble. Just when death seemed inevitable, Yuzuru acted. A dazzling blade flash split Anrokuzen's massive body clean in two. Yuzuru carried Abaito and Kakashi to safety. You did well. Leave the rest to me. Hearing Yuzuru's words, Abaito and the others breathed a collective sigh of relief, but before they could speak, Anrokuzen's arrogant voice rang out again. Yuzuru Uchiha, no matter how strong you are, you cannot kill me. When your stamina and chakra are exhausted, I'll use your blood to celebrate my victory. As Anrokuzen's body fully regenerated, Sarah urged, Yuzuru, now that they've had their training, take me and sever his link to the Ryumyaku vein. Yuzuru raised a hand. This frog in a well will never understand the vastness of the sky. Dealing with him, I alone am enough. He spoke, and his black eyes instantly turned the crimson of a Mangekyo Sharingan. Seeing Yuzuru so composed, Anrokuzen flew into a rage. Die, Ryumyaku, great dragon fire. Anrokuzen roared, hurling a gigantic fireball mixed with Ryumyaku vein energy toward Yuzuru. Everything in its path was incinerated. Yuzuru smirked. The skeletal frame of Susanoo materialized. With a single palm, he slapped Anrokuzen's attack aside. Before Anrokuzen could strike again, Yuzuru said coldly, "Kamui." A ripple in space formed, and Anrokuzen's colossal body vanished in an instant. Sarah watched in shock. I can feel it. His connection to the Ryumiyaku vein has been severed. Yuzuru, how did you do that? She asked. Yuzuru ruffled Sarah's hair with a smile. Simple. I merely banished him. He had exiled Anrokuzen into the Kamui dimension. Once Anrokuzen was gone, the Ryumiyaku vein's link naturally snapped. The power of space-time was just that domineering. When Sarah and the others looked ready to press questions, Yuzuru said lightly, "All right, wait for me here. I'm going to finish Anrokuzen off." Inside the Kamui space, Anrokuzen was stumbling in terror, running in circles like a trapped beast. A moment ago, everything had gone blurry, and before he realized it, he was here, in a strange dimension he had never seen before. He couldn't feel the Ryumiyaku vein's power at all. What was happening? While his mind spun in confusion, Yuzuru Uchiha appeared before him. Seeing the man, Yuzuru smiled faintly. "Mukade, even now, do you still dream of conquering the ninja world?" Anrokuzen froze. Then his face paled with horror. How do you know that name?" Mukade was the name he used back in the hidden sand village, when he had been nothing more than an unremarkable, nameless shinobi among many. Only after using the Ryumiyaku vein to travel through time had he taken the name Anrokuzen. There was no reason Yuzuru should know that. But now wasn't the time to question it. As Yuzuru approached, Anrokuzen's voice trembled. "Lord Yuzuru, please spare me. You've seen my power. I can create an immortal puppet army. When you unify the ninja world, I could be of great use to you." Yuzuru chuckled softly and shook his head. "I preferred you the way you were before, arrogant and defiant. But unfortunately for you, there won't be another chance." Forming hand seals, Yuzuru murmured, "Fire release, majestic destroyer flame." A sea of fire roared to life, engulfing Anrokuzen's enormous body in seconds. Pathetic. With a cold snort, Yuzuru crushed Anrokuzen's head beneath his heel. His eyes glimmered with disdain. With this level of power and ambition, what gave you the courage to even dream of unifying the shinobi world? Yuzuru, did you deal with Anrokuzen? The moment Yuzuru reappeared, Sarah rushed to him anxiously. Abaito spoke first, puffing his chest. "If Yuzuru acted, there's no way anything went wrong. You can relax." Yuzuru smiled and nodded. "Sarah, Anrokuzen is dead." Hearing it confirmed, Sarah's eyes reddened. The murderer of her mother, the oppressor of her people, finally punished, it was over. "Yuzuru, thank you. You're the savior of all Rorin. Without you, my people and I would have been." She shuddered at the thought. Without Yuzuru's help, she would likely have shared her mother's fate, and Rorin's citizens would have remained enslaved, shackled by Anrokuzen's rule. Yuzuru shook his head. "Sarah, the Ryumiyaku vein's power is too immense. It'll attract endless greed. None of you can protect it. If you continue to use that energy, it'll bring disaster to your kingdom." He wasn't exaggerating, he was simply stating the truth. If word of the Ryumiyaku vein spread, Rorin would vanish just like Yuzushio once had, perhaps in an even worse way. Sarah nodded solemnly. After what had happened, she understood. No matter how precious a power was, without the strength to protect it, it only invited ruin. "Then what should I do now?" she asked quietly. Yuzuru thought for a moment. "First, take me to the source of the Ryumiyaku vein." "All right." Sarah led him to the heart of the Ryumiyaku vein. The dense energy coursed through the earth like a living thing, glowing with a palpable presence. Just by sensing it, Yuzuru frowned. The Ryumiyaku vein's power was far too violent, far beyond even the chakra of a tailed beast. Born from the planet's very lifeblood, it wasn't chakra so much as pure natural energy. No wonder Anrokuzen turned himself into a puppet, Yuzuru thought. A human body can't endure this kind of force. "Sarah," he said, "can you try channeling a small amount of the Ryumiyaku vein's energy into my body?" She blinked in surprise. "I can, but it's dangerous. It's fine." At Yuzuru's insistence, Sarah guided a thin stream of Ryumiyaku vein energy into his body. Instantly, Yuzuru grimaced. He could feel the energy gnawing at his flesh, corrosive and wild. "That's enough," he said quickly. Sarah withdrew the energy at once, worry etched across her face. Yuzuru, are you all right? He shook his head lightly. I'm fine. But it's clear I can't seal the Ryumyaku vein within my body, not unless I acquire a sage's physique. Only then could I withstand the shock of such pure natural energy. Without it, even with Sarah's help, wielding the Ryumyaku vein's power in combat would be impossible. Still, Yuzuru didn't seem disappointed. What others might call impossible, he saw only as a challenge to solve. With his system, evolving his body into that of a sage was simply a matter of time. He began forming hand seals. Over the years, his sealing techniques had reached mastery, no weaker than Minato Namikaze's in the original timeline. Reverse elephant seal, 8 trigram seal, layer upon layer of fuinjutsu patterns intertwined, surrounding the Ryumyaku vein until it was completely sealed. At the center, Yuzuru embedded a kunai to anchor the formation. The Ryumyaku vein's energy was fully contained. There, he said, straightening up. It's done. He turned to Sarah. Without the Ryumyaku vein's power, you and your people can no longer live here in Roran. Why not come back with me to the hidden cloud village? Based on what he remembered, he should be the first to have discovered the Ryumyaku vein's location. Still, taking precautions wouldn't hurt. Leaving Roran's people here would only invite future trouble. It was better to relocate them safely under his watch. Sarah's eyes brightened with joy. Yuzuru, you're amazing. The lands around Roran were barren desert, unfit for survival. Her people had long dreamed of leaving but had nowhere to go. Now, hearing Yuzuru's offer, she was overwhelmed with gratitude. She threw her arms around him in excitement. I have to tell everyone. They'll be so happy. With that, she dashed out of the chamber. Yuzuru lingered for a moment, a faint smile curving his lips as he recalled the warmth of her embrace. Definitely worth the trip. Like Sarah, the citizens of Roran were overjoyed when they heard they could relocate to the land of lightning. Even with the Ryumyaku vein's power, Roran was still a barren kingdom buried in desert sands, lacking resources and convenience. The prospect of moving somewhere fertile and safe thrilled everyone. Sarai and Masako personally approached Yuzuru Uchiha to express their heartfelt gratitude. Yuzuru, ever the dependable man, decided to see things through and personally escort the people of Roran toward the land of lightning. It wasn't that he particularly cared about them, but since Sarah's bloodline carried the power to control the Ryumyaku vein, he didn't mind doing a little extra to strengthen her trust in him. Their great migration naturally couldn't go unnoticed by the hidden sand village. When the scouts reported to the third Kazekage that the one escorting Roran's people was Yuzuru Uchiha, the Kazekage chose not to interfere and even sent a number of sand shinobi to quietly watch over their journey. No matter what, they couldn't allow anything to happen to those people while still within Wind Country's borders. As they walked along the road, Masako smiled. Lord Yuzuru, you saved Roran. You're our benefactor. I think you and Queen Sarah are truly a perfect match. Sarai nodded quickly. Indeed. Lord Yuzuru, would you be willing to become our king? Hearing that, Sarah's face turned bright red, and she lowered her head, nervously fiddling with the hem of her dress. Yuzuru chuckled. Let's talk about that after you've all settled down. He had already been honest with Sarah about his circumstances. Although she had said she didn't mind, Yuzuru still intended to discuss it with Makoto and Kushina before anything happened. Along the way, while passing through the land of grass, Yuzuru made a short detour to Kusagakyur. However, he found no sign of any members of the Uzumaki clan. Looks like it's still too early, he thought. Karin's mother probably hasn't settled here yet. From the land of wind to the land of lightning, they traveled through the lands of birds, rain, grass, waterfalls, frost, and rice fields, taking nearly 3 months before they finally reached their destination. At the border, an Anbu operative sent by the third Reikage appeared. Lord Yuzuru, the third Reikage has already arranged housing for the people of Roran. Please, allow me to guide them from here. Yuzuru nodded and turned to Sarah. Sarah, will you come to Kumagakyur with me first, or go with your people to settle down? Sarah thought for a moment. I'll go with them first. Once everything's in order, I'll come find you in Kumagakyur. All right, then this is where we part. Yuzuru didn't press her. As queen, she couldn't just abandon her people and leave. After giving the Anbu a few quiet instructions to ensure Sarah's safety, Yuzuru departed with Kakashi, Shisui, and Obito, heading for Kumagakure. On the way, Shisui diligently filled out the mission log. Kakashi kept his nose buried in a book, and Obito, restless as ever, looked over at Yuzuru curiously. "Hey, Yuzuru Nii, about you and Queen Sarah. Should I help you hide it from Sister Kushina and Sister Makoto?" Yuzuru replied calmly, "No need. I've already said it before, if I take the lead, it's all for the sake of the Uchiha." Hearing that, Obito raised his thumb in admiration. As expected of Yuzuru Nii, I still have a lot to learn. When they returned to the village, the group reported their mission. After a brief round of questions, the clerk immediately handed them their payment. The moment they received it, Obito, Kakashi, and Shisui's faces all lit up with excitement. A full 500,000 ryo. Obito asked nervously, "Yuzuru Nii, how are we splitting it?" "I'll take 200,000. The rest you three can divide evenly." The trio nodded eagerly. "No problem." That left each of them with 100,000 ryo, a satisfying reward. It wasn't about the money itself. Earning it through their own mission made it feel different. More importantly, their ninja records now officially included a completed A-rank mission. Even some Jonin didn't have that kind of achievement. Seeing their joy, Yuzuru grinned. "Come on, everyone. Let's go get some barbecue, my treat." They might not be in Konoha anymore, but traditions were traditions. Some habits shouldn't be abandoned. Yeah, after months of dusty travel, they hadn't eaten proper grilled meat in ages. They ate until the restaurant closed for the night, leaving with full bellies and happy faces. As they walked out, Yuzuru said, "Shisui, focus on your studies at the academy from now on, all right?" The boy nodded obediently. "Yes, clan leader Yuzuru, I'll follow your orders." Yuzuru smiled. Shisui's spirit was fragile. He could awaken his eyes at any moment. But doing so too early could strain his body, even lead to a bloodline illness like attaches. Better to let him mature naturally. Obito groaned. Then that means Kakashi and I just lost a teammate." Yuzuru thought for a moment. "Then you can team up with Tekka." "Tekka." Obito made a face, remembering Uchiha Tekka's arrogant attitude. "Fine." After setting things in order, Yuzuru returned alone to his courtyard. The lights in the room were still on. When he opened the door, he found Kushina Uzumaki sitting inside, knitting gloves with a ball of red yarn. "Kushina, it's still a long way till winter. Why start making gloves now?" At the sound of his voice, Kushina leapt up and threw herself into his arms. "Yuzuru, you're finally back. I missed you so much." Yuzuru brushed his chin affectionately against her hair. "Then tonight, don't go back to your room. Stay with me." Kushina playfully smacked his shoulder. "No way, you'll just try to take advantage of me, you big pervert." Yuzuru sighed in mock frustration. "Kushina, you really think so little of me." Heh. Kushina giggled and slipped out of his embrace, smiling mischievously. "Yuzuru, my birthday was 2 weeks ago." Yuzuru blinked. "Oh, then I owe you a gift." She rolled her eyes. "That's not what I meant." He scratched his head. "Then what did you mean, idiot?" She huffed softly. "I just turned 18. With that, she opened the door and ran off, her laughter echoing down the hall. Yuzuru stood frozen, his heart pounding faster and faster. Marriage, they had to get married. Ding. Detected special clan member with unique bloodline. Yatsuki bloodline. Current Yatsuki bloodline evolution. 100% at dawn. A clear and melodic voice echoed in Yuzuru Uchiha's mind. He opened his eyes sharply, the corner of his mouth curling into a faint smile. After all this time, the Yatsuki bloodline had finally completed its evolution. The instant the system message faded, Yuzuru's body underwent a dramatic transformation. He could feel it, the density of his body changing, his physical strength growing, and his chakra surging rapidly. The transformation was brief but intense. Within moments, his body stabilized again, though now it was vastly different from before. Yuzuru stood up. His physique was lean and powerful, muscles sharply defined and radiating raw masculine strength. Every small movement carried an effortless dominance. The chakra within him had multiplied. After a rough estimation, he realized he now possessed at least 50 units of chakra. The third Reikage had fought the ninja of Iwagakure for 3 days and nights. Yuzuru felt he could go 5 days and nights without tiring. Taking a deep breath, he focused, channeling the memory of the lightning release chakra mode into practice. The once destructive nature of lightning now coursed through his body harmoniously, not tearing his cells apart but invigorating them. With every spark of lightning, his body's cells underwent ceaseless transformation and strengthening. At this rate, he murmured, mastering the lightning release chakra mode will be child's play. This system's power, it's absurdly overpowered. He inhaled deeply, steadying his excitement. The road ahead was long, this was just one step. Then a voice called from outside the door. "Lord Yuzuru, are you home? I'm here." "Come in," he replied. The door opened, and Karura stepped inside, only to freeze the moment her eyes fell on him, her face instantly flushed red. "Lord Yuzuru, why your clothes?" Her voice trembled like a mosquito's hum, barely audible. If not for Yuzuru's sharp senses, he wouldn't have even caught it. "I was training just now, forgot to put a shirt on," he explained casually before slipping into his upper robe. Karura kept her head down, unable to look at him again. His chiseled frame, paired with his handsome face, made even the air around him feel feverishly hot. That body, that face, so unfair. Suddenly, Karura felt her nose tingle. Her eyes widened in alarm as she quickly covered her nose with both hands, frantically shaking her head. "No, no, no, get those thoughts out of my mind." Yuzuru, completely unaware of her mental meltdown, frowned in concern. "Karura, are you feverish?" I'm not feeling hot, not sick." Her knees went weak, barely keeping her upright. "Today's your wedding," she stammered. "I just came to bring your clothes, they're on the table." "And now I'll be going." She dropped the folded outfit on the table and bolted from the room as if fleeing for her life. Yuzuru blinked, glancing down at the drops of nosebleed she'd left on the floor. Wait, were we even having the same conversation just now? As the sun rose, the entire hidden cloud village came alive with celebration. Today was Yuzuru Uchiha's wedding. The villagers filled the streets, cheering and lighting firecrackers. Drums thundered, laughter echoed, and the entire village felt as festive as during a great holiday. Inside the Uchiha compound, the atmosphere was equally grand. The third Reikage, Teru Uchiha, Fugaku Uchiha, Sakumo Hatake, and nearly every notable cloud leader had gathered to congratulate him. In the center of it all stood Lihuo Uchiha, surrounded by smiles and overflowing flattery. He couldn't stop grinning, his mouth nearly reached his ears. The Uchiha clan valued pride above all else, and today that pride blazed like fire. The entire village was celebrating. The third Reikage, Sakumo Hatake, and Tadai himself had come to toast him. Who had ever received such an honor? Even Fugaku's own wedding hadn't drawn this much spectacle. For Lihuo, the frustration of having both his daughters snatched by the same man was finally soothed. Kakashi Hatake looked toward Yuzuru, who was helping Mikoto and Kushina adjust their attire, his expression filled with admiration. Senior Yuzuru is like a protagonist straight out of a romance novel. It's unreal. He turned to Abaito. "Abaito, isn't Senior Yuzuru amazing? Makes you jealous, doesn't it?" Abaito ate a piece of cake, shrugging. "What's there to envy? I'm a pure love believer." As the guests laughed and talked, the stars of the ceremony stepped out. Mikoto, her long black hair flowing, looked as gentle as water. Kushina, with her bright red hair, radiated fiery liveliness. The scene fell silent in awe. Their looks are unreal. Lord Yuzuru, Lady Mikoto, Lady Kushina, they're the perfect match. Lord Yuzuru's so blessed, two beautiful wives at once. Damn, the lucky ones get everything. I've been single for over 20 years, when's my turn? So jealous. Maybe I should talk to my wife about expanding our household. Brother, don't dig your own grave. For the sake of increasing the Uchiha population, clan head Yuzuru leads by example. Truly, I'm moved to tears. The chatter filled the air with laughter and envy, then smack, the third Reikage slapped across the back of the head. "Look at Yuzuru, then look at yourself. You make me want to use a guillotine drop on you right now." I rubbed his head and sulked in the corner. Why was he always the one getting hit? He swore he'd never attend another wedding again. T/N, fair enough, hahaha XD. The ceremony proceeded smoothly, filled with cheers and blessings. When it finally ended, the entire village still buzzed with excitement. Ding! Detected special clan member with unique bloodline. Uzumaki bloodline, current Uzumaki bloodline evolution, 1%. The system's message echoed once more in Yuzuru's mind. But this time, he was far too distracted by the moment to care. Feeling Yuzuru Uchiha's burning gaze, Makoto lowered her head, her fingers gripping so tightly that her knuckles turned white. Kushina was doing slightly better, though the redness on her face had spread all the way down her neck. As Yuzuru approached, Kushina's voice trembled. "Why, Yuzuru, shouldn't you say something first?" Yuzuru's breathing grew heavy. "I'm a rough man," he said slowly. "So I don't really know what to say at times like this." He paused, his voice dropping to a low rumble. "If I have to say something, take a deep breath, relax. Feeling dizzy is normal." The next day, it was nearly noon before Yuzuru finally got dressed with Kushina's help. Makoto was in no condition to move. She still lay sound asleep, her breathing faint, occasionally furrowing her brows and mumbling in her dreams. Seeing that, Kushina gave Yuzuru's shoulder a light slap and scolded softly. "You bad man." This big brute hadn't lied. He really was a rough man. After straightening his clothes, she hesitated before speaking. "Yuzuru, can I ask you something?" He raised an eyebrow. "What is it?" Biting her lip, she said quietly. I want to see more of the world before having a child. I'm not ready yet." Yuzuru chuckled, his tone warm. "That's fine. I respect your decision. We can wait." Then, with a teasing grin, he tilted her chin upward. "Besides, there are plenty of ways to avoid having children." Kushina's heart skipped a beat under his gaze. She quickly looked away and stammered. "Why, Yuzuru, you must be hungry. I'll go prepare food." As she fled in flustered haste, Yuzuru laughed softly and shook his head, then focused inward, sensing the change in his body. After the wedding last night, he seemed to have inherited the bloodline power of the Uzumaki clan. Cloud Lightning Gorge, a blur of movement, and Sakumo clashed, lightning and steel entwining in blinding arcs. Their speed was beyond human perception, the air crackling with explosive shockwaves. Dodging Sakumo's strike, a suddenly caught him and twisted his body midair. Lightning bomb. Boom, Sakumo's body smashed into the ground and vanished in a puff of smoke. Lightning release, purple electricity. A voice cut through the air, followed by a flash of sword light. In the blink of an eye, countless slashes rained down on A, carving bloody lines across his skin. Roaring, A unleashed his chakra in full. Blue-white lightning erupted around him as he entered his full-power lightning release chakra mode. His defense, speed, and strength all skyrocketed. With a single punch, he shattered Sakumo's short blade. Lightning release, lariat. The massive impact sent Sakumo flying backward. "Sakumo-senpai, this time I win," A clenched his fist in triumph. After years of training, he had finally surpassed Sakumo. Though it wasn't a true life-or-death battle, it was still proof of his growth. Sakumo smiled wryly. Since coming to the hidden cloud village, his own strength had grown tremendously. Combining the Hadake clan's swordsmanship with the Cloud's flow blade technique, and their powerful body-forging arts had refined his skills even further. But compared to him, A's progress was extraordinary. In just a few short years, he had mastered the lightning release chakra mode to perfection, reaching the peak of his ninja career. His power, speed, defense, and endurance were all terrifying. Facing such a well-rounded warrior, even Sakumo began to feel the pressure. At that moment, Yuzuru appeared. "Yo Tilda," he greeted casually. Sakumo bowed politely while he gave a low snort. "Well, isn't this rare, a guy like you showing up here?" "What's that supposed to mean?" Yuzuru asked, puzzled. "Ever since your wedding, you've been holed up at home for 2 months. A said with a smirk. "I was starting to think you drained yourself dry." Yuzuru glared. "Nonsense, my little brother is undefeated. And for the record, I've been training at home too." A blinked at the mention of a little brother, but didn't bother asking. Instead, his eyes lit up with excitement. "Then fight me, Yuzuru. I've surpassed Sakumo-senpai. Next, I'll surpass you." Yuzuru chuckled and shook his head. "You just cleared the beginner's village, and now you want to challenge the final boss." That comment made both and Sakumo's faces darken instantly. So that was what he thought of their sparring. A children's game, Sakumo frowned. "Don't be so arrogant, Yuzuru. We've both grown stronger these past years. Enough talk." I activated his lightning chakra mode again, immediately pushing it to full power. "Yuzuru Uchiha, fight me." Seeing their determined eyes, Yuzuru sighed. Fine, I'll play along." Sakumo leapt back while he lunged forward, lightning surging around him. Yuzuru snorted softly. and in the next instant, his entire body was wrapped in lightning too. Both and Sakumo froze in shock as his figure vanished. Bang! Before it could even react, Yuzuru's fist sank into his stomach. The impact was so immense that even in full lightning chakra mode, couldn't withstand it. Before he could counter, Yuzuru's figure disappeared again. Bang! 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 His fists hammered A's body like relentless thunder, each blow landing with a heavy thud. A's body bent under the pressure, blood spilling from his mouth. Yuzuru appeared before him, legs set, arm drawn back, serious punch. T/N, Saitama is that UXD boom. With a thunderous explosion, A's body shot through the air like a cannonball, carving a deep trench across the solid ground nearly 100 meters away. PFFT, struggled to stand, coughing up a mouthful of blood before collapsing back onto the ground. He stared at Yuzuru Uchiha in disbelief. You've mastered the lightning release chakra mode. Yuzuru shrugged. Is that so strange? I nearly spat blood again. Strange. It was beyond strange. In the entire hidden cloud village, the only ones who had ever successfully mastered lightning release chakra mode were him and his father. It wasn't that the technique was difficult to learn. It was that most bodies simply couldn't withstand the raging power of lightning coursing through them. It was a matter of innate physical toughness, something no amount of training could compensate for. And yet, a clearly remembered Yuzuru failing in his previous attempt to learn it. I told you before, didn't I? My eyes can achieve anything. When Yuzuru once again credited his Mangekyou Sharingan for this feat, A's mouth twitched, seriously. Whenever something unbelievable happened, this guy just credited his eyes for it. But he couldn't argue back. After all, the Mangekyou Sharingan was indeed shrouded in mystery, with power after power defying all logic. Who could confidently say Yuzuru was bluffing, sighed heavily. Even if those eyes let you master the lightning release chakra mode, aren't you a bit too strong? The fight had been short, but I had felt the overwhelming gap between them, power, speed, defense. Yuzuru surpassed him in every way. And this was the man who had honed his body since childhood, taking over 10 years to perfect his lightning release chakra mode. Yet in just 2 months, Yuzuru had mastered it effortlessly. If I hadn't experienced it firsthand, he would never have believed it. Wait, could getting married actually help with training lightning release chakra mode? A sudden thought struck him, and the more he considered it, the more sense it seemed to make. Why else had his father been nagging him to get married? Why else had Yuzuru suddenly achieved this level of mastery? As I pondered this revelation, Sakumo Hatake, who had been watching, could only gape in shock. The battle had been one-sided slaughter. He'd seen it clearly. Even with his lightning release chakra mode fully activated, I had been nothing more than a sandbag for Yuzuru. Against Yuzuru's attacks, he couldn't even react, that speed. If it was lightning, then Yuzuru was light. By the time you saw him, it was already too late. Sakumo recalled how moments ago he'd thought Yuzuru sounded arrogant when he'd declared himself unmatched. Now he realized Yuzuru had said nothing wrong at all. With that kind of power, being treated like roadkill by him wasn't even an insult, it was a fact of life. While Sakumo was still dazed, Yuzuru approached and held out a hand. Are you hurt bad? I grabbed Yuzuru's hand, struggling to stand. He pointed at the bloodstain on the ground. What do you think? You hit way too hard, damn it. That single punch had sent him flying nearly 100 meters. If it had been anyone else, they'd be a smear on the ground by now. Wasn't on purpose, Yuzuru replied helplessly. You know, stepping on an ant without crushing it is actually very difficult. A's veins bulged. His fists creaked audibly as he clenched them. Getting beaten to a pulp was bad enough. Did he really have to listen to this smug commentary afterward? It was unbearable, absolutely unbearable. All right, that's enough fun for today, Yuzuru said casually. I've got training to do. He turned and walked toward the deeper part of Cloud Lightning Gorge, Mangekyou Sharingan combined with lightning release chakra mode, especially since his Dijutsu power was the double Kamui. To put it bluntly, even if he were to face Hashirama Senju and Madara Uchiha at their peak, what could they possibly do against him? Half a year passed in the blink of an eye, thanks to Yuzuru's continued efforts. Makoto Uchiha's belly had begun to show. By his estimation, the child would be born around June. Meanwhile, Kushina was still running missions with Karura. One wielded the Uzumaki clan's powerful vitality, the other, the magnet release that controlled sand. Together, they had gained quite the reputation across the ninja world, known respectively as the Red Hot Habanero and the Sand Guardian. Aside from that, one other thing was worth mentioning. For reasons best known to himself, had finally seen the light. Near the new year, he'd impulsively married a kunoichi from the hidden cloud. She was muscular, dark-skinned, and, somehow, looked surprisingly well-matched with A. Nope, can't think about it, Yuzuru muttered, shaking the image out of his mind and returning to the present. He smiled as he watched Makoto hanging clothes in the courtyard. Makoto, you should rest more. You don't need to be doing laundry or cooking anymore, he said gently. Makoto smiled softly and shook her head. It's fine. It feels nice to move around a little. She touched her stomach tenderly. Yuzuru, do you think it'll be a boy or a girl? I can feel it. This baby's going to be a gentle one. Yuzuru chuckled. I'll love them either way. He pulled her close, enjoying the quiet moment together. Then a loud, familiar voice boomed from outside the yard. Yuzuru, you home? Makoto lifted her head from his shoulder, smiling. Go on, dear, I'll be fine. Yuzuru nodded and stepped outside, only to find her standing there looking gloomy and worn out. What's with that face? Yuzuru asked. You look exhausted. Who upset you? Actually, you look kinda drained. A's face darkened further. After his fight with Yuzuru months ago, he'd shared his marriage helps training theory with his father. His father had enthusiastically confirmed it, swearing it was true. But once A got married, he realized he'd been tricked. 3 months later, not only had his lightning release chakra mode failed to improve, he'd started waking up every morning with a sore back and stiff waist. It was too late to undo it. Now subscribe for more amazing novel audiobooks. Don't forget to like, comment, and share infinite novel audio. With a sigh, he muttered, Yuzuru, I want to clear my head. Come with me. Yuzuru raised an eyebrow. Why not bring Killer Bee? That guy's annoying, always rapping and giving me headaches. Yuzuru thought for a moment, then nodded. All right, it's been a while since I stretched my legs anyway. He smiled faintly. Let's go find some fun out in the ninja world. The land of fire, the border. 3 Konoha shinobi escorted a wagon slowly down the muddy road. It had just stopped raining. The surface churned beneath the horses' hooves. One of the shinobi grumbled. Really, we have to do missions in weather like this. It's miserable. Yeah, another agreed. We're the most noble class now, yet the village still demands we meet a monthly mission quota. What's that about? Hearing his comrades' complaints, the lead Konoha ninja glanced back. A life that's too comfortable dulls our edge. Ninjas must be ready to fight. If we rest easy, we'll be doomed. Hirakawa, Shoichi, pull yourselves together. After a scolding from the squad leader, Hirakawa sounded indignant. Ryafu, Captain, you're too old-fashioned. Even the once mighty hidden cloud has been quiet for ages. The third said it. The Mangekyo Sharingan is a cursed eye. The more you use it, the faster its light fades. I bet Uchiha Yuzuru is already blind, Shoichi sneered, excitement brightening his face. That bastard hasn't been heard from in years. He's probably blind now. If we charge them now, Cloud Village wouldn't stand a chance. Ryafu sighed helplessly. You too. Konoha is the most prosperous place in the ninja world. What would we gain from beating up the cloud? Shoichi nodded in agreement and laughed. Captain Ryafu's right. It's not worth wasting effort on brainless fools. Hirakawa was angrier. They got off easy, those Uchiha bastards. They ruined Konoha before. I'd tear them apart myself. Especially that Uchiha Yuzuru. If I ever find him, I'll twist his head off and use it as a chamber pot. Those cloud idiots think they've found treasure. I wonder if they regret it now. Listening to his 2 subordinates, Ryafu frowned. Don't be arrogant. If you want to live long, never underestimate anyone. Hirakawa and Shoichi had only graduated from the academy 2 years earlier. They had not witnessed the allied shinobi invasion of the Cloud Village. They'd only heard the stories. Uchiha Yuzuru had shattered the allied force with the power of his Mangekyo Sharingan, a single man, 1 blade, and the army broke and fled. Yuzuru had been lucky. He was recuperating in a rear camp with an illness, so he survived. The memory of that despair never left Ryafu's chest. Seeing Ryafu's anger, Hirakawa and Shoichi bowed their heads. Captain Ryafu, we won't do this again. Ryafu nodded, calming himself. That's better. You won't understand the despair unless you've lived through it. Fortunately, after the Allied incident, the grudge between Konoha and the Uchiha clan seemed to have ended. Ryafu's words had barely left his mouth when a derisive chuckle came from ahead. My traitorous kin, what makes you say our grudge is over? Ryafu's pupils shrank. Two figures had appeared on a nearby tree trunk, as if they'd been there unseen. One wore long black hair and a long blade slung across his waist. The other had short, pale blonde hair, dark skin, and a physique like a black bear. You. Ryafu began, but Hirakawa and Shoichi had already drawn kunai, coldly asking, Who are you? Uchiha Yuzuru smiled. You don't recognize me. Didn't you just say you'd twist my head off to use as a chamber pot? That offhand remark left Hirakawa and Shoichi frozen. They looked back at Ryafu and saw his face drained of color. Uchiha, Yuzuru. Boom, it felt like their brains had exploded. Both men went numb. Yuzuru had been missing for years. Why was he here now? They'd only been bragging, for crying out loud. Hirakawa, Shoichi find a chance to run. Don't look back, Ryafu hissed, then charged at Yuzuru. In the next instant, the burly figure intercepted him. You are mine, crack. There was no chance to fend off the blow. Ryafu's neck snapped in an instant. Seeing Ryafu thrown to the ground like broken clay, Hirakawa and Shoichi felt the sky collapse. He died just like that. Captain Ryafu was a special jonin. As Yuzuru strode closer, Hirakawa and Shoichi pounded at their legs, desperate to move. Legs move. They thought, but when Yuzuru walked up to them, they couldn't even twitch. Is the pressure this heavy? Yuzuru drew his long blade and looked down at the two men, whose faces were slick with cold sweat. One last piece of advice. Weakness and ignorance are not the obstacle to survival, arrogance is. The cold blade sliced their throats. Hirakawa and Shoichi clutched their necks and slumped. The taller man stepped forward, savoring the moment. Konoha's shinobi are still as easy to beat as ever, not satisfying at all. I want to go raise hell in Konoha next, the bulky companion asked. Yuzuru thought for a moment and shook his head. We can, but not now. After years of development, the Uchiha population had reached 9,000. According to the rewards he'd been given, once the clan hit 10,000, he could open the next treasure chest. It wasn't urgent, collect the system reward first, then move on. Besides, even if he didn't consider the hidden stone, sand, or mist, there were still Uchiha Madara and Kurosetsu lurking in the shadows. He wouldn't take them on straight. Those two were terror incarnate. He didn't have the eternal Mangekyo yet. Being cautious was fine. I didn't press the issue and instead asked, So what do we do now? Yuzuru's tone was cool. Keep strolling. We're out to relax. We'll wander the land of fire and see what we find. If we run into Konoha shinobi, we'll take care of them while we're at it. A's eyes lit up. A spree of hit-and-run attacks sounded tempting. With their strength, Konoha would certainly have a headache. He punched his fist out at Yuzuru. Yuzuru, it's a Cloud Village tradition. Give our duo a name. Yuzuru considered, bumped fists with A and smiled. Then call us the Do-As-We-Please pair, the land of fire. At the village border, a crowd of villagers gathered, pointing and whispering in front of a tavern. Inside, the place was a mess. Two middle-aged shinobi, both reeking of alcohol, had a portly tavern owner pinned under their boots. I told you already, bastard. I didn't bring any money today. Why are you making things difficult for us? The man punctuated his words with another hard kick to the owner's face. Blood streamed between the owner's fingers as he clutched his mouth. His voice trembled with a hint of sobbing. I know I was wrong. Please let me go. Just think of this meal as my treat. The other ninja pressed his foot on the man's head and said coldly, You think we care about your filthy money? Someone like you has no right to treat us to anything. I'll pay for the drinks later, but next time, be careful or I'll kill you. With that, he kicked the man several meters away. The tavern owner curled on the floor, groaning in pain. It sounded like a rib or two might have snapped. At that moment, two Anbu appeared. What happened here? Seeing them, the drunk shinobi straightened up with forced smiles. This owner caused trouble first, so we just gave him a little lesson. Don't worry, it's nothing serious. The Anbu knelt briefly to check the injured man, then said coldly, Make sure you compensate him. Don't go too far next time. Yes, yes. The shinobi exchanged light-hearted chatter with the Anbu as they left the tavern. The tavern owner lay motionless on the ground, staring blankly at the ceiling. After a while, the onlookers outside finally stepped in. Seeing his pitiful state, someone fumed, "Boss, that's outrageous. I know those guys' names, you should report them to the police force." But another voice scoffed. "The police force, you think there's any justice left there?" Someone else chimed in. "Yeah, last time I got beaten by a ninja and went to them, they threw me in a cell for a week." The crowd fell silent. Ever since the Uchiha clan left, the police force had become unrecognizable. Minor issues were ignored, major ones endlessly delayed, and after the daimyo was overthrown, the shinobi had turned into the new ruling class. Ordinary villagers like them were worth even less than before. Many found themselves longing for the days when the Uchiha ran the police force, stern, expressionless, incorruptible. Back then, no ninja dared bully civilians like this. If they could go back, they'd never have treated the Uchiha so coldly. Hokage building. Inside the Hokage's office, Orochimaru listened as Hiruzen Sarutobi finished relaying the latest Anbu report. "Teacher," Orochimaru said, "many of our shinobi have been getting out of hand lately." "Shouldn't we rein them in?" Hiruzen snorted, his tone heavy. "Orochimaru, do you remember when they surrounded the Hokage building, demanding I step down? When people are given too much freedom, they forget their place. Only when they understand their own position will they know what they can and cannot do." He cared deeply for his reputation, but not enough to risk his title over it. One mass protest had been enough. Orochimaru, seeing the look in his teacher's eyes, dropped the subject. "Then why did you summon me today?" Hiruzen tossed a scroll onto the desk, brows furrowed. "Yuzuru Uchiha and have been running wild in our territory. Over the past few months, who knows how many of our shinobi they've killed. Worse, our mission success rate has plummeted. This can't go on. I'm putting you in charge of dealing with it." Orochimaru shook his head immediately. "Teacher, I'm no match for Yuzuru Uchiha." Hiruzen frowned. "It's been years, maybe you've already surpassed him." "How would you know unless you try?" But Orochimaru remained unmoved. "Either way, I'm not going." He wasn't suicidal. The last time he'd met Yuzuru's eyes, he'd lost an arm. And now Hiruzen wanted him to provoke that monster again. Even if he went, what could he possibly accomplish better to spend that time researching ways to survive such encounters? Seeing Orochimaru's firm refusal, Hiruzen slammed his hand down on the desk. Humiliation burned through him. The great hidden leaf village, the strongest in the world, reduced to this. A single man had them all cornered. He hadn't done anything wrong. So why had everything turned out this way? After raging silently, all he could do was sigh in defeat. Forget it, pay them off. Even Orochimaru refused to face Yuzuru Uchiha. Who else could he send? The land of fire was rich. A little extra money wouldn't cripple them. When Yuzuru's Mangekyo Sharingan finally went blind, that would be the moment he struck back. Hidden Cloud Village. When Yuzuru and saw the 4 billion Ryo reparations from Konoha, both were momentarily speechless. That money came far too easily. From their perspective, the Leaf hadn't even tried to resist. They'd simply been cutting down Konoha shinobi across the land of fire when a peace envoy suddenly arrived, offering a treaty and a fortune to end it all. Yuzuru shook his head. Hiruzen truly suffered from a lack of education. If he'd ever read the Six Kingdoms, he'd never have handed over money so easily. Meanwhile, the Third Reikage was grinning ear to ear. The Land of Lightning's massive infrastructure project had nearly drained their last round of compensation, but now it was topped up again. Spending someone else's money felt glorious. He clapped his hands together, laughing. "The two of you should stop harassing the Leaf Village for now. We'll go after them again once we've used up the money. We need sustainable development. We can't drain the pond to catch all the fish." Yuzuru nodded. "Fine by me. Mikoto is due any day now. I'll stay in the village to be with her." The Third Reikage's grin widened. "Congratulations, then." Then he turned and smacked on the back of the head. "And you stay in the village, too. Until your wife's pregnant, you're not stepping foot outside." I looked utterly distraught. "Seriously. Collateral punishment again. After all the good he'd just done for the village." June 9th, Hidden Cloud Village, sunny day. Inside the ninja hospital, Kushina Uzumaki paced back and forth along the corridor while Karura stood nearby, hands clasped tightly together in prayer. Yuzuru Uchiha spoke calmly. Kushina, Karura, why do I get the feeling you two are more nervous than me? Kushina huffed. That's because you're way too calm, Karura, unusually bold, chimed in softly. She's right. We don't all have Lord Yuzuru's nerves of steel. Before Yuzuru could reply, the clear sound of a newborn's cry broke the hospital's silence. She gave birth, ha ha ha, I'm a godmother. I'm a godmother, Kushina shouted, laughing with joy as she lunged at the door handle and yanked it open. Bang, the entire door came off its hinges under her strength. Everyone turned in shock. Kushina scratched her head awkwardly. Oops, got a little too excited. She carefully leaned the door against the wall and hurried over to Makoto Uchiha's bedside. Yuzuru and Karura followed close behind. The attending doctor smiled. Congratulations, Lord Yuzuru, it's a boy. T/N. Oh, so he is. After saying that, the medical team quietly left the room. Yuzuru stepped forward, gently taking Makoto's hand. You've worked hard, Makoto. Makoto smiled warmly. Yuzuru, I only feel very happiness. Look at him. Our baby is so tiny and adorable. Yuzuru glanced at the sleeping infant nestled by Makoto's pillow and sighed inwardly. So this is what they call a mother's bias. Tiny, sure, but adorable. Not exactly. Kushina crouched by the bedside, eyes locked on the baby. Without looking up, she asked, Yuzuru, have you thought of a name yet? Yuzuru turned to Makoto. Makoto, do you have one in mind? Makoto shook her head. You're his father, the name should come from you. Yuzuru stroked his chin. What about Itachi? Itachi, Makoto repeated softly, then nodded. Uchiha Itachi, that's a wonderful name. Kushina stood up and clapped Yuzuru on the shoulder. Didn't think you had a knack for naming, huh? Yuzuru only smiled. Well, I already stole Makoto from under his nose. Adding a name is nothing, he'd already planned it all out. Makoto's next child would be Sasuke, Kushina's would be Naruto. And if he ever married Karura, her child would be Gaara, Uchiha Sasuke. Uchiha Naruto, Uchiha Gaara. Just imagining it made him grin. After Makoto gave birth, Yuzuru stayed in the hidden cloud village, putting his chaos-making on hold. As the third Reikage had said, after robbing Konoha so many times, it was only fair to let them recover a bit, right? Besides, a warm home, a wife, and a child, that kind of life was bliss, especially when he didn't just have one wife. Time passed, and soon another year had gone by. Within the Uchiha compound, in the courtyard, a small boy stood with both arms crossed in front of his chest, taking tiny, cautious steps. It wasn't so much walking as it was shuffling. Each step moved just an inch forward, his little body wobbling every time the wind blew, a sight too cute for words. Finally, the boy reached Yuzuru's legs and hugged them tightly. Giggling, looking down, Yuzuru smiled. Itachi, do you want me to pick you up? Itachi couldn't speak yet. He just tugged on Yuzuru's clothes insistently. Yuzuru bent down and lifted him high above his head. Ha 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 ha, Itachi squealed in pure delight, clutching at Yuzuru's hair. Makoto, having just finished hanging the laundry, walked over smiling. Itachi, come to mama. But Itachi quickly shook his head and buried his face into Yuzuru's chest. Makoto pouted playfully and gave her son's bottom a light pat. You little rascal. After a while, Makoto said, Yuzuru, I'm heading out for a bit. I might not be back for lunch. Oh, Yuzuru asked curiously, something up? Makoto smiled. Nothing serious. A clansman's getting married today and they invited me. She lowered her voice, eyes gleaming with gossip. I heard the bride's from the Chinook clan. She's been chasing him for years before he finally said yes. I never realized how popular our clansmen are until we left Konoha, seeing her getting carried away. Yuzuru sighed. Makoto, if you don't leave now, you'll be late. Snapping out of it, Makoto hurried off to change. After she left, Yuzuru played with Itachi a while longer before carrying him over to Kushina. Itachi, go play with Kushina for a bit. Daddy's got something to do. Itachi looked between Kushina and Yuzuru, then pouted sadly. Seeing those teary eyes, Yuzuru smiled faintly and tapped his son's forehead with a finger. Forgive me, Itachi, we'll play again next time. T/N. He said the thing. Oh, turning to Kushina, he said, no need to prepare lunch for me. Kushina pressed her cheek against Itachi's and waved him off. Got it? After leaving Kushina, Yuzuru entered the Kamui dimension and waited quietly. Before long, the familiar system voice echoed in his mind. Ding! A special clan bloodline has been detected. Chinook clan bloodline. Current Chinook bloodline evolution rate, 37%. Yuzuru ignored it, still waiting. Moments later, another chime rang out. Ding! Congratulations. Your clan population has reached 10,000. Current clan prosperity, gold. Available clan reward, gold treasure chest. Yuzuru's eyes snapped open, his heart pounding with excitement. After so many years, his clan had finally reached 10,000. The purple chest had given him cage-level power and a Mangekyo Sharingan selection chest. Then the gold one had to be even better. Chapter 98, The Golden Treasure Chest. When he saw the chest shimmering with golden light, Yuzuru didn't hesitate. He opened it immediately. The next moment, a flash of brilliant gold filled his vision. Ding! Congratulations to the host for obtaining the entry. Glorious Evolution. Glorious Evolution. Each time your clan's population increases by 10,000, you may select any bloodline and raise its evolution level to 100%. Current bloodline evolution uses. 1 Ding! Congratulations to the host for obtaining the entry. Reversion. Reversion. Every time the host increases the evolution progress of any special bloodline, excluding their own innate bloodline, to 100%, a clan entry can be drawn for the clan. Currently qualifying special bloodline. Yatsuki bloodline. Available clan entry draws. 1. Hearing the stream of system prompts echoing in his mind, Yuzuru's heart surged with joy. He had expected this treasure chest to be similar to the previous ones, something that would simply enhance his personal power. But this golden chest was different. Not only could it strengthen him, it could also provide entries to strengthen the entire clan. That truly surprised him, yet the more he thought about it, the more it made sense. A clan system rewarding family-wide power should indeed evolve along this line. System, you're quite smart. You actually understand the concept of gradual progression. Yuzuru couldn't help but praise it. First, it let him become powerful himself, and then it allowed him to consider the development of the clan. A very sensible approach. The system, as usual, didn't respond. Finding no fun in the one-sided exchange, Yuzuru simply turned his attention back to the rewards list. Each bloodline now had a plus symbol next to it. The Chinook bloodline, the Uzumaki bloodline. Without hesitation, Yuzuru tapped the plus sign beside the Uzumaki bloodline. The Chinook bloodline was powerful too, boosting mental energy. But compared to the Uzumaki's vitality and endurance, it paled in significance. A wave of warmth surged through his body. Under that gentle flood, his entire being underwent a complete transformation. Strength, chakra, mental force, stamina, explosive power, endurance, every attribute soared. Yuzuru felt as though he had been reborn. Most importantly, the Dijutsu power he had lost since awakening the Mangekyo Sharingan was now slowly recovering. That meant he no longer had to fear blindness. Ha 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 ha. He threw back his head and laughed freely. Just as he'd suspected, the pinnacle of the Uzumaki bloodline was the Sage Body, and the Sage Body could restore Mangekyo Sharingan energy. After laughing to his heart's content, Yuzuru finally calmed down. Excessive power could cloud the mind, venting a little was necessary. Once composed, he focused on the reversion entry. After evolving the Uzumaki bloodline to 100%, the number of available clan entry draws had increased from 1 to 2. Yuzuru gave the command in his mind. Draw entries. Ding. Congratulations, host, you have drawn the clan entry. Robust and vigorous. Robust and vigorous. All clan members' physical strength and mental energy are doubled. Seeing that, Yuzuru nodded in satisfaction. Doubling both physical and mental strength wasn't as simple as 1 plus 1. In real combat, where every attribute interacts, that effectively meant a 3 to 5-fold increase in fighting capability. Before, a 3-Tamo Sharingan Uchiha could fight 3 opponents at once. Now, that same Uchiha could face 6 without issue. 1 Uchiha against 7, it had become literal. After a brief thought, Yuzuru spoke again. Draw entry. Ding, congratulations, host, you have drawn the clan entry, Prosperity through Offspring. Prosperity through Offspring. greatly enhances clan members' fertility while reducing physical strain during childbirth. Excellent. A real gem. His eyes lit up, though it didn't directly enhance combat ability like robust and vigorous. For a clan, fertility was everything. The system's rewards were tied to population size, so as long as numbers increased, power would follow. Indeed, nurturing the clan is the true path. Compared to growing our population, everything else is secondary. Yuzuru took a deep breath, feeling his thoughts clear as never before. For the first time, he truly savored the immense power now flowing within him. With the Uzumaki Sage body, my Mangekyo Sharingan's energy now restores itself. The pace isn't fast, but I'll never go blind. My chakra has also surged, nearly doubled, about 200,000 units, give or take. He almost scared himself with that figure. Even Naruto Uzumaki, the reincarnation of Asura, had only around 100,000. At this level, he rivaled Hashirama Senju himself. If a single golden chest could yield such rewards, how astonishing would future ones be? The thought alone made him tremble with anticipation. When Yuzuru exited the Kamui space and returned to reality, the sun had already set, yet the Uchiha compound was strangely quiet. Odd, it's not even that late. Where is everyone? Frowning, Yuzuru walked along the street. Suddenly, a stray black dog in an alley bared its teeth and barked at him twice. Yuzuru covered one eye and smirked. Provoking me, how amusing. Kamui, the black dog. Rest in pieces. After dealing with it, Yuzuru continued deeper into the compound, then a figure rushed up to block him. Clan leader Yuzuru, I finally found you. It was Yakumi Uchiha, looking pale and panicked. Yuzuru frowned. Had something happened while he was away, but the Uchiha district lay at the heart of the Cloud Village. It shouldn't have been attacked so easily. What happened, Yakumi? Yuzuru asked gravely. Yakumi, gasping for breath, stammered. See clan leader Yuzuru, it's bad. Everyone's waiting for you at Naka Shrine. Please come, quick. Yuzuru saw the flustered look on Yakumi Uchiha's face but didn't press the issue. Instead, he immediately activated Kamui and warped directly to Naka Shrine. This is Lord Yuzuru's ability. Too terrifying. Yakumi couldn't help swallowing hard. One blink and he was standing inside the shrine. The power to travel through space at will. How was that any different from a ghost? No, wait. A ghost didn't chase you down to bite you. No wonder after Lord Yuzuru's visit to the hidden Cloud Village, the Third Reikage had treated the Uchiha clan so favorably. With power like that, who would dare offend him? Yuzuru, you're here. Fugaku immediately stepped forward as soon as Yuzuru appeared. Normally calm and composed, his expression now carried a trace of panic. Yuzuru frowned, puzzled. He looked around and saw that most of the clan's elite had already gathered. Their clothes were tidy, showing no signs of battle, but on their faces he saw fear, excitement, confusion. What in the world had happened? Sensing Yuzuru's confusion, Fugaku swallowed and said gravely, Yuzuru, something strange happened this afternoon. Every member of our clan's body seems to have changed all at once. Our physical strength, mental state, even our chakra, all of it feels massively enhanced. What's going on? Hearing this, Yuzuru suddenly understood. Ah, so that was it. Earlier that afternoon, he had drawn a clan-wide upgrade from the system, doubling every member's physique and mental power. No wonder everyone was panicking. He sighed inwardly. He'd completely forgotten this might cause a stir. The system could never be exposed. But how should he explain this to them? Seeing Yuzuru's expression, Fugaku's eyes widened in disbelief. Yuzuru, don't tell me, this has something to do with you. Yuzuru nodded. Yes, it does. What? Fugaku blurted out. A change that affected the entire clan's bodies. How on God could he even achieve such a thing? As every pair of eyes in the room turned to him, Yuzuru thought for a moment before speaking slowly. Everyone, calm down. About what's happening to your bodies, allow me to explain. The moment he spoke, the noisy shrine fell dead silent. Every Uchiha stared at him in shock. Could it be that this was the work of the clan head under everyone's gaze? Yuzuru Uchiha activated his Mangekyo Sharingan, pointed to his eyes, and slowly asked, Does everyone know the other name for the Mangekyo Sharingan? The crowd exchanged uncertain looks. After a moment, Fugaku replied, Clan leader Yuzuru, isn't it called the eyes that reflect the heart? Yuzuru nodded. Exactly. Do you know why it's called that? Fugaku hesitated, then shook his head. I'm not sure. Yuzuru turned his gaze to the others and began to explain. Every time an Uchiha awakens the Mangekyo Sharingan, the left and right eyes each gain a unique ability. The ability gained depends on the Uchiha's deepest desire at the moment of awakening. To turn one's innermost wish into reality, that's why the Mangekyo Sharingan is known as the eyes that reflect the heart. The hall erupted in gasps. Even Fugaku stood frozen in shock. They had always known the Mangekyo Sharingan granted powerful abilities, but they had never imagined those powers were shaped by the user's own heart. Seeing their stunned faces, Yuzuru continued. At that time, I saw the Uchiha clan's future. Staying in Konoha would only lead to annihilation. With the determination to save our clan, I awakened my Mangekyo Sharingan. To ensure we could leave the village safely, one of my eyes gained the power of space-time transfer. I believe you're all familiar with that ability. The crowd nodded firmly. They had all personally experienced being transported from Konoha to the land of rice fields. Yuzuru's explanation made perfect sense to them. A few sharp-minded clan members suddenly realized something. Could their bodily changes be connected to the ability of his other eye? Fugaku murmured. Yuzuru, then your other eye's power. Yuzuru nodded and said in a deep voice, just as you all suspect, in order to make our clan the most powerful ninja clan in the shinobi world, my other eye also awakened a corresponding ability. At regular intervals, it can grant every Uchiha a special form of power. This time, that power was to double your physical and mental strength. Even though many had already guessed, hearing it confirmed made the crowd collectively draw sharp breaths. Some even stood up in sheer disbelief. The Mangekyo Sharingan was said to hold the power of gods, but this was beyond imagination, and yet the evidence was right before them. There was no denying it. After a long stunned silence, Naka Shrine erupted with cheers. So it was clan leader Yuzuru's doing. Then there's nothing to fear. When you think about it, the Mangekyo Sharingan producing such a miracle isn't strange at all. Clan leader Yuzuru truly is the Uchiha's savior. We will follow him to the death. This surge of power, it feels incredible. I can't wait to fight. The Uchiha are the mightiest clan in the ninja world, and Yuzuru is our lord. Haha, ha 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 ha. If before Yuzuru had been merely a respected and powerful clan leader, now he was a god in the eyes of his people. A Mangekyo Sharingan awakened with the sole wish to bless every member of the clan. Just how selfless was clan leader Yuzuru's heart. Watching the Uchiha clan cheer and celebrate, Yuzuru finally let out a breath of relief. The Mangekyo Sharingan truly commanded absolute authority. Even something this bizarre could be perfectly explained away by its power. Even Fugaku Uchiha showed not the slightest doubt. No one believed Yuzuru was lying. In fact, what filled their hearts was pride. This was the divine power that belonged solely to the Uchiha clan. All right, this matter is to remain an absolute secret, Yuzuru said calmly. No one is to mention it to outsiders. Understood? Yes, clan head Yuzuru. Everyone responded in unison. They weren't fools. They knew very well how terrifyingly overpowered the Mangekyo's ability Yuzuru had just described was. If such news spread, it would shake the entire ninja world. And Yuzuru himself would become the target of all eyes and blades. No one wanted to see a single clan dominate all others. The Uchiha could easily become prey for every ambitious schemer lurking in the shadows, waiting for a chance to strike. That will be all for today's clan meeting, Yuzuru concluded. Go back and reassure your respective branches. Yes, the gathered members bowed deeply. Yuzuru's prestige had reached an unprecedented height. Everyone understood now. As long as Yuzuru led them, the Uchiha would only continue to grow stronger. After the others dispersed, Fugaku approached and spoke in a low voice. Yuzuru, how much longer can your eyes hold out? The average clansman didn't know, but Fugaku understood well. The Mangekyo Sharingan came with a price. Yuzuru had been using it ever since leading the Uchiha away from Konoha. Even with his prodigious talent, his Dojutsu power must have nearly run dry by now. Seeing the concern in Fugaku's face, Yuzuru smiled, patting him on the shoulder. Don't worry about my vision. I've already found a way to prevent the Mangekyo from making me blind. When you awaken yours someday, you'll understand. Fugaku stood there stunned, watching Yuzuru's back as he walked away. That's possible even the blindness of the Mangekyo could be solved. Just what can't you do, Yuzuru? For a moment, Fugaku felt his eyes sting. Perhaps heaven had truly blessed the Uchiha clan with this man. Clan head Yuzuru, eternal loyalty. By the time Yuzuru returned home, dawn was breaking. He saw a figure moving about in the kitchen. Without thinking, he walked up and wrapped his arms around her from behind. Inhaling deeply, he chuckled softly against her ear. Mikoto, you smell a little different today. The woman in his arms froze, her body going stiff. Sensing something was wrong, Yuzuru lifted a hand and touched the spot he knew best. The next second, he felt as if he were holding a furnace instead of a person. A trembling voice broke out, half crying, Lord Yuzuru, I'm Karura. Yuzuru's eyes widened. Karura, why are you wearing a wig and Mikoto's clothes? Karura's face turned red. Senior Lihuo fell ill, so Mikoto went to care for him last night and hasn't returned yet. Little Itachi was crying for his mother, so I dressed like her to comfort him. Hearing her explanation, Yuzuru couldn't help but silently praise his son. Good job, Itachi. That's one divine assist. Didn't let your father down, he smiled slyly. Karura, it's not just Itachi who misses Mikoto. I miss her too, so why don't you keep playing the part? With that, he lifted her into his arms and carried her toward the bedroom. Karura didn't resist. She simply nestled her head against his chest. She'd heard Mikoto and Kushina gush about how blissful it was to be with him. Now she could finally find out for herself. Ding! Detected a new special bloodline in host's clan. Magnet release bloodline sand. Reward obtained bloodline limit. Magnet release sand. Current magnet release sand evolution. 1%. Hearing the system's notification, Yuzuru stretched lazily, sleeping until afternoon. Now that was refreshing. Stepping out into the courtyard, he found Kushina Uzumaki and Mikoto Uchiha playing with little Itachi. When Kushina noticed him, she grinned mischievously. Well, husband, working hard even in the daytime, huh? Yuzuru waved a hand nonchalantly. All for the good of the clan. A little personal sacrifice is worth it. Shameless, Kushina huffed, pouting as her cheeks flushed pink. Yuzuru raised an eyebrow. Kushina, lately you've been a little too bold. Looks like I'll have to discipline you properly. PFFT, Kushina's face turned even redder. Why did I understand that instantly? Ugh, I'm not pure anymore. It's all Yuzuru's fault. Off to the side, Mikoto giggled softly at the sight of the two bickering. Just then, a knock came at the door. Outside, Abaito's voice called out, Big brother Yuzuru, you home. T/N, Abaito, this is the second time you come in a bad time. The third won't go unpunished. Opening the door, Yuzuru found Abaito and Kakashi waiting. Abaito looked especially excited. What's the matter? Yuzuru asked. Abaito pointed proudly to his eyes. Watch closely, big brother. His one-stark pupils turned crimson, two black tamo spinning slowly within. Abaito, what happened? You actually awakened your Sharingan. Yuzuru blinked in surprise. Opening the Sharingan required intense emotional stimulation. In the original timeline, Abaito awakened his during the Third Great Ninja War when Kakashi lost his eye. So what could have triggered it this time? Kakashi sighed before Abaito could answer. Yesterday, he went mountain climbing with his grandma. She fell and broke her leg. That's when he awakened it. Kakashi's tone carried both disbelief and resignation. The Sharingan, one of the most powerful Kekkei Genkai, couldn't possibly awaken from something so mundane. If he hadn't seen it himself, he never would have believed it. Hearing this, Yuzuru couldn't help but give Abaito a thumbs up. Truly worthy of the title, Grandma's best friend. I, Yuzuru Uchiha, officially name you the 0.1 Unexpected Ninja. Thank you for all the likes, comments, and shares read. Keep sharing your thoughts in the comments. We're already halfway to 1,000 subscribers. Party Popper, thank you so much for supporting the channel and enjoying these novel audiobooks.